baby.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So you were just saying something about the Institute for Economics and maybe starting a podcast with some of the people that are going to be part of the faculty or are already existing part of the faculty.
Yes. So this is our institute, the Carl Menger Institute in Los Angeles. We're just over 1 year old, but I'm going to run the social media and start the Menger Institute podcast, which will be interviewing our faculty who have taught for us, kind of how they got interested into Austrian economics and then what their current areas of interest for research are. But we teach free market economics, as I was telling you before this. Mm-hmm. And my professor, Darren Jurgen, he taught me undergrad at Occidental College, and he was like the GOAT professor. All the students loved him. They wanted to be in his classes. And
what university was this at?
This is Occidental College. It's a small private liberal arts college in LA. Obama went there. But unfortunately, the school didn't want to renew his contract because he wasn't complying with what they wanted him to teach, which is basically like all the universities now are teaching neoclassical microeconomics, Keynesian macroeconomics, but it's basically like socializing, like critical theory, social justice. All this stuff is basically like a cover for communism, frankly. The universities, they're politicizing the students. The first thing they teach in economics is market failures, right? So what's the correction for market failures? It's government regulations, interventions.
Like complete overthrow.
Yes, yeah. They're anti-markets, they're anti-freedom.
So when they like start with like market failures, do they bring up specific examples throughout like our current economics or?
Yeah, it's basically like markets fail because they don't produce, they don't reach equilibrium. But what's an equilibrium? This is all like the neoclassical Leon Walras type of way of looking at economics. But what we do at the Carl Menger Institute is we teach students the Austrian School of Economics. So the Austrian School of Economics was founded by Carl Menger, which is our namesake of the institute. And it basically begins with human action, that all people act. You have a scarcity of resources, a scarcity of time. So what you do in life demonstrates what you prefer. And so that's why when you make an exchange with someone, you enter the market, I like this yerba mate and I have this pen, you want the pen, we make this exchange. There's no equivalence of value. That's the problem with the classical economists, Adam Smith, David Ricardo. They thought there was an equivalence of value, an objective value when you make an exchange.
So under this like philosophy, then it would be more of like a barter system where you're trading things?
Well, from the barter system, you have the coincidence of want. So maybe you don't want the pen that I have, so we use indirect exchange, which is the use of money. Yeah. So money is super important. Money is like the lifeblood of society.
It's how you get equivalence.
Yes.
Like if two things are not equivalent, we can exchange money, and then that's like a fair trade.
Essentially, yeah. Prices there's everything you want in society has a price to it. And so that's how we use money to exchange goods and services. And so this is like the basis for civilization, for society. And but basically what we have today is a politicization of society with governments, politicization of money. So basically when we have monetary policy, fiscal policy, this is leading to the corruption of money. And when you corrupt money, you corrupt people. Because what we do in life and society is we work for money to have a better life, more capital accumulation, save something for a rainy day, leave something for our children, leave a better society. But when you have political money, it leads to inflation. And this is...
What do you mean by political money?
Political money, I mean by fiat money. So the US dollar after 1971 is not backed by anything.
Yeah.
It's not backed by gold. So it's basically just printed by the Federal Reserve. And we have to just trust that they don't print too much of it. Yeah. And the whole idea of monetary policy is like we want a 2% inflation target rate.
Which that's just totally made up too.
It's totally made up. And it's so interesting because it's like, so you want to not have too much inflation, but you want a little bit of inflation. Yeah. It's like, why not 3%? Why not 4%?
Yeah. Why not 1%? Why not 10%?
So we don't want an inflationary money because this is... There's a couple things that happen. These are the effects of inflation. Inflation really is just an increase in the money supply. That's what it means.
Yeah.
the effects are an increase in prices because prices adjust. More money chasing the same amount of goods.
Yeah, there's more money in the market, and so it's worth less.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so some of these effects of inflation are overproportionate asset price inflation. So when people, assume there's going to be more money in society, they go to buy assets, which can be gold, silver, homes, real estate, Bitcoin, you name it. Stocks, vehicles, because they think the prices are low today, they're going to be higher tomorrow. You also have overproportionate present time consumption, which is something I was thinking about recently, which is basically...
Wait, first on the last part, overproportionate assets, meaning that they inflate, I guess they inflate too much is what you're saying?
So overproportionate asset price inflation is basically like people going to buy more assets. So there's a higher demand.
Because money is so inflationary, people are buying more assets as a hedge.
Yes. So it's multivariable. You do have money. Basically, when the money is printed by the Federal Reserve, it goes to the banks, and the banks make these loans, and they have fractional reserve banking and this moral hazard effect, which basically means I can loan out more money if I'm a bank because I know I'm going to get loaned out by the central bank.
Sure.
I like to call it the federal bank.
Yeah.
So you have this moral hazard of more loans going out, more people taking on this money and investing it. And
so quickly on that point, before the 2008 crisis, that wasn't necessarily a thing, right? It was a debate at the time if the banks were going to get bailed out. I think the true free market economists thought we should allow the banks to fail.
Yes.
Yeah.
The argument was they're too big to fail, but this has actually happened in the past. I mean, this was what the Great Depression was. It was from Hoover, LBJ, overspending.
Overspending and overlending.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. As well as the Panic of 1819. That was Murray Rothbard, a great economist. His dissertation was on that. But this has happened in the past.
You're saying these events are events where banks did fail?
These are events where we had an increase in the money supply and it was loaned out by the banks and created these bubbles. So this is a big concept in the Austrian School of Economic Thought, which is what's called the business cycle or the boom-bust cycle. And this is the idea that you have this boom, the good times of the 1920s. We create all this money. It's artificial. It's basically like a drug. Okay, we're gonna party hard tonight, and then the next day is the recession or the hangover. This is the cleansing mechanism because the money's fake. The same amount of goods, wealth is really material things you can buy. Okay, when you just print pieces of paper, this isn't wealth. This is artificial. So then the prices have to adjust. And so that's what the recessionary period is. It's the cleansing mechanism.
It's the comeback.
When the government says, we can't let the banks fail, we can't let the businesses fail, we need to prop them up, more stimulus. This is the idea of saying, okay, we're hungover, we don't want to feel bad, more drugs, more alcohol, keep it going.
Well, the thing is, too, though, they almost displaced that hangover to the common person. There are a lot of people that felt the real pain throughout that crisis. It just wasn't these giant conglomerate banks. And they also made it almost impossible for anyone to have a small bank anymore because at the time, I think there were a bunch of small banks, but they put all this regulation in to say we can never let this happen again. We have to extreme regulate all the banks. And in reality, what they did is just made it so cost preventative for anyone to get into the banking industry that no one, unless you're, a billionaire banker, can actually start a bank.
Yes. Yeah. It's so regulated now. It's practically impossible unless you comply. Which is unfortunate because we want free banking. We want free money. Let's have markets for these things. When you don't have a market for these things, they're basically become quasi entities of the state, which is interventionism, and that leads to socialism. And that's what fascism is. Fascism is a variation of socialism. It's private in name only. It's nominally private, but the government is saying who's going to provide what at what prices, who you're allowed to sell it to. So we get in economics, it's multidisciplinary. You need to learn history, you need to learn physiology, biology, psychology. And then, we teach all of this stuff, the foundations, man enters society, the market, the importance of money, institutions, and then the market provision of security, the market provision of justice. These things can be provided in a market. And then we arrive at anarcho-capitalism.
Wait, hold on. Stop right there. So the market say that again.
The market provision for security and justice.
So meaning like courts and police.
Yes.
So that it would be provided by the private market.
Yes. Yes. These are things, arbitration, mediation, these are things you can have services for. They don't need to be provided by governments. Why? Because governments are essentially a monopoly on these services. They're saying no one else can do it, so we'll do it. But then they're liable to the bureaucracy. They're liable to be politicized.
Well, so is the private market. Private market can be politicized as well. So if you have a private police force that all of a sudden is extremely ideologically leaning one way or the other, that could not be great for the general population.
Absolutely. But the difference is that in the market, companies are responsible to the consumers because the way to make money is to provide a good service, a good.
Well, that's true. Yeah. But so then how would like a police force make money?
A police force would make money, basically think of like a shopping mall. Okay, a shopping mall, when you like have a business, a space in there, you're kind of leasing it. And so the money you goes to the services of the owner of that property to provide the electricity, to provide the water, to provide the trash services, to provide the security. So right now, even we have more private security than police officers. And when you think about like, if you go into a bar and it's drunk, testosterone-filled men, you're kind of safer there than if you're in a public alley. Because in a public alley, do we have enough police or do we have too much police? The market tends to find these answers because in the market process, the price mechanism, the profit and loss system, it's essentially using society's scarce resources to satisfy the needs of the consumers. So capitalism is mass production for the masses.
Sure.
And when you don't use society's resources well enough, you incur losses. And these losses are a signal that you need to change what you're doing.
Yeah, but like specifically, if it was a private police force, where would like income be coming from?
Income would be coming from the consumers, the people who want security. Think of like Uber.
So like for private security.
Yes. You can Uber for security.
But so like what about the common person who like I don't have any private security or anything, but if someone were to attack my house, I want to call someone. And so you're saying I would just like call a private company?
I would say there'd be security. So basically in your neighborhood, like it's not gated, but if you had a gated neighborhood, you would have security in that area and we'd have ways to have security. We'd probably have like, you live in a society, you want security. But right now you're paying for it via taxes.
Well, this is the thing though too. So if like say, gated or not, someone attacks my house, tries to break in, I call the police, we fucking get them out here. Are they going to be like, all right, here's your bill for $1,500. Thanks for.
No, it wouldn't work like that because essentially in this system, insurance companies are the natural framework for governance. Insurance companies, basically people are assets. So to minimize costs, they want to protect their assets. So they probably provide more security. Under the system today, that kind of is what happens. What happens if the police don't show up or they show up too late?
Yeah.
What happens if they don't meet their obligations? We don't sign a contract for the police. So we don't have repercussions if they fail to meet these ends. But with an insurance company, they're going to provide security based on what you negotiate. And if they fail to meet it, they incur the losses. They have to pay you. Then you go to the arbitration mediation companies. They say, this was the contract. They didn't protect you, and you incur this loss.
So it'd be like sort of similar to an insurance. Like I pay insurance on my house. I would pay insurance to like a security company or something. If something were to happen, I call them.
Yes. Even before you call, all the insurance companies kind of in a sense would be interconnected to minimize their costs. So they want overlapping security.
All the insurance companies mean like all the security companies in this example?
I would think so.
There'd be overlapping.
It'd be a harmonization. Think of like the flights, the
Wouldn't
airplanes.
That be like quasi-government then? If like everyone's working together?
Yes, it's a natural governance, but that's fine because you want the market systems for this interconnection.
You basically want like checks and balances. So, like if they fuck up, there should be like people are firing them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's also based on the profit and loss mechanism too, because if I'm this security company and either I fail to protect you or I go rogue and I like want to conquer everyone, one, that's just a description of the status quo. I mean, the political nation states we have are monopoly. They have a monopoly over the geographical territory of their region. So they need to provide just enough. But the problem is with this monopoly that there's two types of monopolies: natural monopoly and political monopoly.
Yeah.
Natural monopoly is like, I provide such a good service, I provide such a good drink, I'm the sole provider.
Yeah, you become so big, everyone's only wants to pay you. You become a monopoly.
Yeah, and that's in a way fine because I'm providing a good or service people tend to want. Like think of Apple. The political monopoly is the nation state, and the political monopoly, the issue is because they don't operate in the market process, the profit and loss process, they essentially can increase the price while the quality of the good decreases.
Yeah.
This is socialism. This is why you have shortages and surpluses. Because the state is not responding to profits and loss, it's responding to targets, to signals. How many skateboards and bicycles should we produce? I don't know. Let's just put an estimate.
Yeah, let's put a quota out there, try to hit the quota, and then see if we do or not.
Yes. And so this is like what we kind of are living in today. And I think that's why we're more philosophical and theoretical, is because we're looking into what the alternatives to the political nation state are. And there's a good essay on specifically security and arbitration mediation by the Tannehills, Linda and Morris Tannehill. I forget the title of the essay.
What was their proposition for private security?
They really, I think, pioneered this work on what private security looks like.
As a replacement for the police force.
Yes. So this theory of anarchism is nothing new. I mean, we trace it back to the ancient Chinese of Lao Tzu, Chuang Tzu. These guys were saying, the government that governs least governs best. A lot of Taoist philosophers.
Yeah.
And then we can look at.
So this is what's interesting, because I'm feel pretty libertarian is where my economic ideology pretty much lines up, which is a lot of this, but the extreme end of it is what you're saying, the privatization of firefighters, police force, these things, and those things I'm not quite sure. I'm just curious how exactly they would be done.
Yeah. I mean, so I'll say there's a joke because libertarians in essence are minarchists. They want minimal state.
Yeah.
There's a joke. What's the difference between a minarchist and an anarchist? 6 months. 6 months and a lot of reading. Because when you read about it, you begin to see how the market.
So how would you define anarchist?
Anarchist is basically the negation of the political hierarchy and hierarchy. The political hierarchy is the nation state.
So no government whatsoever. Is that basically what it is?
Yeah, essentially. We have hierarchy, we have markets, we have private rules.
So how about, we were talking about the, local police force, but what about nation security?
Right. So this is, many professors and Austrian economists have written about this public goods fallacy that you need the nation state to protect for national security. But it's the same idea of insurance companies would pay for this form of defense that can be minimized because the technology would be greater and the efficiency would be greater. The issue that we have today, because I like this perspective that the best criticisms of anarchism are just descriptions of the status quo. We have the invading nation state that has taken over this property, and over generations, they've established themselves. So
you're saying governments have failed defending the nation.
They're failing all over. They failed to defend the nation. They're also basically exploiting the taxpayers. They're the tax consumers. So this is if you want to call it the class struggle, there is a class struggle, but it's not bourgeoisie and proletariat. It's taxpayers and tax consumers. And more nefariously, they don't even need to pay taxes. I mean, because of the federal bank, the Federal Reserve, they just print the money. Yeah. So people are taking wealth, consuming this wealth, redistributing the wealth with the snap of their fingers by printing it, because the money goes to the banks and the friends of the banks.
Yeah.
And that's the Cantillon effect, that they get to spend the money first. What do they spend it on? The military-industrial complex, $6 trillion honeypot, making money off making bombs with General Dynamics, Boeing, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin.
$6 trillion means the total amount that everyone gets paid throughout this?
Yes, essentially, which is just the revolving door of the lobbyists, the weapon
we've got
contractors.
Almost $1 trillion annual defense spending budget. So
it's $6 trillion.
I think it's almost 1
it's
trillion.
1 trillion. Yeah, but
you're talking
interconnected.
About like
with,
each individual company has how much they pay their people.
Like combined.
Yeah, I gotcha. It's like a $6 trillion industry.
Yes.
Right? I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of money there.
Well, so like this is my question though. So like if we were to do this in some sort of privatized fashion, we would be giving some company or some private company an exorbitant amount of money that they would be able to defend our country, which also means that they could attack individuals or they, like, no one's impervious to like, political influence or some, unless we're just assuming that they're completely altruistic and they're always going to have our best interests in mind. And they're never going to send the fucking drone dogs into the streets just to take care of the people. We're going to be giving one company a crazy amount of money to create advanced military products, and there's going to be no real check or balance from like another entity that could stop this, other than the people themselves. But obviously, we're giving so much power to it that like, what are we going to do?
Again, it's like the difference is when you pay taxes, you don't have an option. There's no choice.
Yeah.
So we're forced to pay for that system. But in the market, think of like a company. The way to make money, again, is to provide defense. If they go rogue, people stop paying them, they go out of business. So in the short term...
But that's my concern. If maybe I want to stop paying them, but like they're already taking me over.
Yeah, I mean, as Murray Rothbard said, then we would have had a glorious holiday from the nation state.
A glorious holiday? What does that mean?
It would have been a nice experiment that we were free for a minute. But
I don't know if that'd be too nice.
but the state...
We're free for a minute, now we're North Korea.
The state, the state, they're the mafia, essentially. So they're
the government.
The government, yeah.
I guess like I kind of thought of a counter argument as I was saying that, is that like the government could do this all right now.
Yeah.
Like they could do all these things right now.
And we are jumping to like anarchism, the privatization of fire department security. This takes time to like work up and like get the foundations. But I think more importantly for this conversation is like discussing like money and inflation, like we were going to, because then we can like, we'll work into that.
Sure. Okay.
So what I've been thinking about lately, and actually just to tell you, like I'm working on my PhD dissertation at the moment, and it's on the economics of suicide, how these institutions of the state produce more suicidality than what otherwise would occur in a free society.
Whoa.
Yeah. So one of these institutions is monetary manipulation. And what this does, which is inflation, politicizing money, it creates, as I mentioned, the overproportionate asset price inflation. It creates overproportionate present time consumption, which is an increase in time preference. And time preference is basically like you prefer your dream home today rather than 40 years from now. That's the idea of time preference.
Sure.
We prefer the present rather than the future.
Sure.
And
they do so via like lending, like getting a loan to buy that.
So interest rates are super important. The price of money, the price of time. When you artificially lower interest rates, this is what begins this boom process.
Yeah.
It signals to investors, entrepreneurs, we have more savings available, because when you naturally save more, you can lower time preference. You're thinking further.
When you have more savings.
When you have more savings.
When you don't have any savings, you're like, fuck, when am I ever going to get this?
Yeah, when you don't have savings, you would have a higher time preference. You'd also, when you have less savings, but you artificially lower the interest rate, which is what we're doing now, that's what creates this artificial boom. We don't have the wealth, the resources to provide this. So they just want to keep feeding money into it until the recession, the bust comes.
Yeah.
And what also happens is basically this higher time preference. As people have less money to save, to pass on to future generations, they start thinking for the present moment, consuming, instead of year to year, month to month, week to week, day to day. And I think this is what also basically creates ideas of like nihilism in society, leading people to be like, well, what am I doing? What am I up to? And it leads more to escapism.
When people have more time preference for like
a higher time preference.
A higher time preference, meaning like they want like this shit right now.
Yeah.
It leads to more nihilism.
I think so, because you're not thinking future generations. You know,
Yeah.
we have all the technology to build beautiful works of art, La Sagrada Familia, cathedrals, yet we don't. Why? Because of the money. If you trace it back down, it's because of the money influences culture. It influences society.
Interesting.
Yes.
So you think at the time that we built this, we had like a plethora of savings, and we're like, let's build this 10-year project right now.
Yeah, people were building things that they wouldn't live to see the completion of.
Wow.
And we don't live like that.
Yeah.
And it's not
Like,
that
unless we can get it done in 18 months, we're not fucking doing
exactly.
it.
and why? Because of these low interest rates.
It is a return on cost thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But we have the technology, and I think that's the role of an economist, is to point this out. Economists were very multidisciplinary. Even at the time Adam Smith wrote his book, The Wealth of Nations, there was no formal department of economics. He was studying law, and economics was just a part of law. And so that's why you have like political economy that people study. That's what I study. And but now economics is so specialized, it's so curated, because economists were considered the mischief makers for the state. They were saying, you can't do this. You can't spend this money and expect to actually grow wealth.
Yeah.
David Ricardo wrote a book where he exposed the mercantilist idea. The mercantilism was the economic system of feudalism, which was the idea that we're going to ship all our goods out and retain the gold in our country. And he was saying basically, no, you want more comparative advantage, more trading, more specialization, because of this idea that, one, when goods don't cross borders, soldiers do. So this is the precursor for like war and conquest. And two, that's how you actually grow wealth, is to have more interconnected exchanging with the world. But he was imprisoned. The book was put on trial. He was in prison twice. The book was put on trial. The book lost. They burned the book.
What the hell?
Yeah.
The book was put on trial?
His book, I forget.
What year was this?
This was in like the 18th century.
Interesting.
Yeah, I believe late 18th century.
And his whole point was that trade is paramount.
Trade is paramount, yes. But the issue, so he was a classical economist. So David Ricardo, Adam Smith, they're classical economists. The problem we ran into is Karl Marx also was influenced by David Ricardo and Adam Smith. So they got this objective theory of value. So Karl Menger and what was called the marginalist revolution of 1871 said, wait, value is subjective. It's on the margins we value things. For example, like I value water, but if I have like hundreds of bottles of water, that 100th one, it's called the diminishing marginal utility. The marginal utility of that 100th bottle is like minimal.
Almost nothing.
Right. But if I'm starving in the desert, I want that water. You know what I mean? So I value it a lot.
Yeah.
And that was the diamond water paradox, that diamonds are more valuable. They're more expensive, but water is essential. But we have so much water. So
diamonds are more valuable just because there's less supply of them?
Yes, essentially. But if you're in the desert, like I'll trade you my diamonds if I'm dying of thirst for water.
Yeah, you'll trade millions of dollars for a single water.
So it's all relative in that sense. And when you have a civilization of more wealth, then you have more things to buy. Money is more powerful, the purchasing power of money. So that's why inflation one is like decivilizing. Inflation is a policy by the policymakers.
Yeah.
They all want to print more money.
2% inflation a year.
Yeah, but it's gonna like 4 plus.
Yeah.
So inflation is terrorism. Okay, this is like what's eroding society.
Sure.
And it's monetary policy.
Yeah.
Why are we having policies on money? It should be free money if we're a free people.
Yeah.
But the truth is, we're not so free as we think.
So you started going into like the problem came when Karl Marx.
Marx basically took this subjective theory of value and he applied it to his theory that the workers and what was called like the alienation, the workers are producing what's of value. The entrepreneurs and the bourgeoisie capitalists are not. But the thing is, like, the market is like, it's run by entrepreneurs. That's why the Austrians are saying, like, one, value is not objective. Okay, if I spend, basically, he called it the labor theory of value, which is like, the labor I put into something is what gives its value. And even like some of the Greeks, like Aristotle, kind of thought this way too. But it's not true. If I make 2 drinks, right, and I put like 10 hours into one and 10 minutes into the other, and one's really good and one's really bad, I'm always going to prefer the one that's really good.
So even if like you put 10 hours into the one that's really bad, like the one that's better, even though it took less time, is better.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just consumer preferences.
And so how again does this apply to labor?
Okay, so Marx was saying basically like the amount of time and effort I put into something is what gives it its value.
It's
that
the
should
most
be the
important.
price. Yes.
Yeah. So because there's so many workers putting so many hours into this work, and the entrepreneur is essentially only providing capital, or in some cases that could be the case, like the workers' value is much more than the entrepreneur's value.
Yes.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, entrepreneurship is basically creating knowledge. It's creating information for society on what to produce. And then you have innovations come along. This is like a creative, dynamic process. If I even pay you to work for me, it's entrepreneurial action for you to look at your options. What's the best option for me?
Yeah.
Maybe it's taking this job because he'll pay me immediately. Entrepreneurs have to get paid last.
Yeah.
That's why they incur profits and loss. Don't forget the losses.
For sure.
Most companies don't succeed.
Most fail.
Yes, most fail, but that's part of the market process.
Yeah.
It's not good or bad. It's just what creates more goods and services in society. And then it's the issue when you get into like the politicization of these goods and services. People think, oh, it's capitalism that's extracting the money and giving it to the like top 1%. No, that's politics. That's the interventions, the regulations, the taxing of people. Actually, it's the entrepreneurs who are able to provide these goods or services to basically create better work environments, create better wages when you have more capital accumulation and investments, and satisfy consumers. Those are the ones who are paying you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If you make shitty drinks, consumers aren't going to pay for it. I don't care how much time you put into it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to pay for it. And so we're both consumers and producers in society.
So what do you think was a ripple effect of like Marx putting in this idea?
Yeah, I mean, well, in the 20th century, Rudolf Rummel, an American demographer, wrote a book called, I think it's called The Black Book of Communism. And he said it's estimated from 160 to 220 million people died in the 20th century alone by democide, which is not genocide. That's deaths by like another state. But democide is death by your own state. So in socialism, when you don't have profits and losses, when you don't have markets, basically what you're doing is you're working for targets. And who sets the targets? Obviously, it's the planning committee. And when you don't have money to incentivize people, you need to force people to work. So how do I force you to work? I need to threaten you with tortures, executions, rapes. And that's how you get people to work. So in socialism,
and it's not the most motivating.
It's not, but it will get some people to work. And the thing is that's why in all socialist countries, it's estimated that about 10% of the population gets put to death because that's the only way to get people to work is there's more fear and more compliance. And so obviously they're not free.
It's so interesting that we're talking about this. Like I had no clue that, about like your work with economics and whatnot, but I've just recently, I'm like an hour and a half into, and if this is the third one that I've watched, I'm an hour and a half into like a very comprehensive history documentary about North Korea. And so it's really interesting hearing about the history of it and like how it came from. Basically, like there was the first divide from North and South, and then like North Korea wasn't just a dictatorship immediately. It was like basically like a communist ally to like a lot of the other communist countries, and then like slowly and surely, I guess, it just became like worse and worse. And they implemented like first it was like taking all the farmland and distributing it back to the people, and there was like a brief period of economic prosperity. But eventually, like they implemented things like you're saying, where there was this huge workforce, and he was emphasizing output of certain industries while not really caring about others. And basically, they did so through quotas, that you had to produce a certain quota. But the problem was if you didn't produce your quota, you could be put to jail or put to a prison camp or something like that. So obviously the farmers and people who are putting out this were putting out fake numbers. Like they're saying that they're hitting their quotas, even though they actually weren't, because it's like threat of, death or whatever. And so it created this period where like, I think they said 25% of the children died in like a small period of time because there just wasn't enough food. Like you said, the workers would get burnt out completely because they're just it's like they're just whipping the chains or whatever you want to say, like whipping them to get them going. There was no true intrinsic motivation. and production declined, and it's crazy.
It is.
That's like the late stage of like the initial thought is like this like beautiful altruistic thought that like, hey, everyone deserves to have free food and everyone deserves to like have as much economic prosperity as anyone else and everyone's equal. And that like a lot of it was so much propaganda is how they even convinced the people that this is all good. And like one of their first, like sort of the beginning of like the foundation of North Korea was this thing called Junyeon or something. It starts with a J, which basically means self-reliance, that we need to be completely self-reliant, the individual and the nation state. And so they stopped trading with other countries, or that was the eventual goal, that like North Korea will be North Korea and stand on its own feet without the help of anyone else. And like it's kind of a cool thought that like, hey, we're completely self-independent, and then, like the later stage of it is just like this mass extreme famine. And then it got so bad that like North Korea stopped putting out their public numbers because like people would criticize them and say like, okay, well, it seems to be doing good here, but you didn't even mention fucking grain or this or whatever. And then like I think in late 60s, they just stopped putting out public data.
Yeah. They have to. The great economist Frederick Bastiat, late 18th, 19th century, said the state is the great fictitious entity which everyone tries to live at the expense of everyone else, to consume more than you produce. That's what socialism promises, this utopia.
That everyone can consume more than they produce.
Yes.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yes. And that's the promise, but it doesn't work. Another like example.
How interesting. Will you say that quote one more time?
The state is the great fictitious entity where everyone tries to live at the expense of everyone else.
Wow. Interesting.
It's very, it's a privileged idea.
Yeah.
And it's just that civilization is young. We don't yet, since the Industrial Revolution, before that, you couldn't tell like living standards from 16th century back to like primitive ages because there was just no material wealth. This was the Malthusian trap, that population would increase. We have less resources. So then people starve, they die off, population decreases, then we have an abundance of resources. And that was the Malthusian trap by Thomas Malthus. But then the Industrial Revolution came, more capital accumulation, savings, investments, and then infant mortality decreased, life expectancy increased, material standards of living increased. We live better than the kings of Middle Ages. So also on this example of like the starvation and the targets and stuff, like there was an example in the Soviet Union that they would have these quotas of producing nails, and the way they would measure nails is by the weight. So then what happened was they just started producing big ass nails, but not that many. So they were building homes, but no roofs because they couldn't nail the roofs in.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, that's how important the price mechanism is for society. It makes more people interconnected, and it creates this civilizing effect. And so basically from the 20th century, influenced by Karl Marx, you had Lenin, Stalin, Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, even like if you look into American history, FDR was influenced, probably Woodrow Wilson by Karl Marx. They were very like scientific socialists. So Benito Mussolini and Hitler were influenced by Karl Marx. They didn't want international socialism, which was the variety of communism. They wanted national socialism. So this was the idea of autarky. We just need a big enough geographical territory so we can be self-sufficient and provide for ourselves.
Kind of like North Korea.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's kind of what partially inspired World War II and these things. But they were national socialists. So that's what fascism is a merging of corporation and state.
Yeah, right.
And so they're not capitalists. This fascism is not, it's not technically, you can call it right wing, but that's why then I'm like anti-democracy, because then right wing and left wing result in socialism.
Yeah.
You either have fascism or communism.
Yeah.
And so democracy, my perspective, is that of like Rousseau, the most fanatic advocate of democracy. He said it's nothing more than a moderate form of communism.
Wait, what is nothing?
Democracy.
More? Oh, okay.
Democracy just means politics, which is the politicization of everything, society, all these policies. So it's not compatible with freedom. If me and young Jamie vote to steal your bike, then we take your bike. So you don't own your bike. If we vote to take your money, you don't own your money. You don't own the fruits of your labor and your effort. So democracy is very primitive. The idea was to simulate battles and warfare. Who had the biggest army would win.
Yeah.
That's why it's majority rule or majority of the tyranny.
So what's the alternative to like a
freedom, which is obviously a simple answer. But it's the natural governance, the system of polycentric proprietary order, which is basically private property order. And
natural governance meaning just like the free market at play.
Free market at play, yes.
Under this situation, like who would say there's this massive pothole in the ground and like none of the neighbors want to pay for it, and so like who fixes that?
Yeah, that would be the owner of the roads. They incur the losses. So yeah, you'd pay for things, but we are paying for things now, taxes. But the issue is the potholes aren't getting filled anyways.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? That's what we have. And we don't get to hold anyone liable because the politicians
for not filling it. Yeah,
for not filling it.
There's this one by my house that if I take my car over it, it sounds like I popped both tires. It's insane. It's like what the fuck.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And also too, there's like a street light right on top of it that at night it's like a strobe light basically.
Yeah.
I've got a friend from high school with epilepsy. If he were to drive past that, there's literally a chance he just goes into an epileptic fit. And it's been like that for 3 months now.
You know, and this is the problem with the bureaucracy and statism is that they're paid via taxes.
Yeah.
So even before they fix the pothole or the street light, they get paid. And then we don't get to hold them liable or responsible. When at least you have a company said, I'm the provider of the road, making sure it's okay. You know, think of traffic accidents. 65,000 people a year die on the roads in this country. But yet we don't hold the managers of the road responsible. We say drive safer, but like it's dangerous. So
there's certain roads that are particularly dangerous too.
Yes.
Like there's a road I think on your way to Vegas that has like the most deaths
Really?
in the maybe in the United States, but by far in Arizona. Like as far as like occurrences per month, it's like tenfold what any other location is.
Yeah. And there's a economist, Walter Block, who wrote a book about the privatization of roads and highways. And he talks about this. Why don't we have like, you know, all these different ideas of how we can have road management and signs and decreasing accidents and fatalities. So
you don't have to convince me that the private government or the private sector far outproduces and in a far better way than the government. Like I feel like it's not even close. And like me having to deal with certain government entities because of my work, like I'll have to, you know, talk to the city of Buckeye or something, for example. And like the city of Buckeye just over the past few years implemented a 4-day work week instead of a 5-day. So now they only work Monday through Thursday. But the thing is you can call someone on a Tuesday and they've got, I guess, a backlog of things to do or something. They might not get back to you for over a week. So you have a question that can in reality be answered in about 30 seconds, and it takes 8 days to answer that question. And also, too, so often you'll call someone and they just never call you back. They literally just never respond at all.
Yeah.
So it fucking pisses me off. But
that's the bureaucracy. But
I'm curious, like how it would be done in a different way, or like I guess. Are there any? It almost seems to be like a transition from public to private would be like a super painful experience because, like, for one, right now, like like typically how water and sewer is created, it's created on a mass scale by the private sector, and then as selling throughout the community or like at some point throughout it, it's gifted to the city, and then the city manages it. So like things like this, and it's like a huge undergoing to manage a sewer treatment plant that services 3,000 homes or something. You know, it's a massive undergoing. So like a rapid transition from complete public to private, I feel like would be maybe a very, very painful transition. I'm curious, has there been any, like to your knowledge, like transitions, or has there even been any societies that are like anarchists from the get-go?
Yeah, so I think what we'll see is more of free private cities. So it would still be cities that are operating these services, but they'd also be competing. And I heard this principle. It's called the subsidiarity principle, which is the idea that the cities will do things that they'll do basically everything that they can and rely less on like the nation state, for example. So in regards to anarchist cities, yes, in Honduras, there's 2 cities called Morazan and Prospera. And they're free private cities, very small. They're very infant, but they're growing. And one of them is more for like citizens, and then the other one's more for like business investments and stuff like that. Honduras is also very socialist, so it's like they were antagonist. The government was very antagonistic to these cities, but
so they were a socialist like system, and then
a socialist country, yes,
and then cities within it that became complete anarchist.
Yes, and it took time for them to like get approved and things like this.
Oh, so but it's like a lawful like running. This is just like how they run it.
Yeah. And
well, I guess lawful is like the opposite of anarchist. Like no one did.
Yeah. We actually, for our institute, the Menger Institute, had Joyce Brand, who lives in Morazan, speak with us, and she was telling us about it. She lives there, so like she was great.
How many people are in there?
It's not big. It's like, I think she said it's like 2,000 people. The issue is, when we're thinking of the theory of anarcho-capitalism and where it can apply to a city, it's just it's still being created. Like civilization is still young. We haven't reached this end state of freedom.
Yeah.
I believe we can live in a world without war. I really do. I think war is a cause of the political nation state. So basically, you just need one free private city that operates this way to be the example for the rest of the world to look at.
It's got to be fairly large scale, though, too. Right?
It will be a big city. I mean, they'll be thriving, but then that's the example you need for everyone in the world to be like, look what they're doing.
Yeah.
Why do we still have the system?
Yeah.
And then it will fall like that.
Are there any problems in that city in Honduras?
Well, I mean, for one, there's private security, and the security lives in the community itself. I think the surrounding area is not so good, or they're not so wealthy. But I don't want to use that as the model example.
Yeah, sure, yeah. And also too, like, I'm not saying that like, are they a perfect society where nothing ever goes wrong? Right. Like obviously that's probably an unachievable goal.
Yeah. No, the
curious,
thing is, this isn't utopia. Anarcho-capitalism is just solving one major problem.
Sure, I gotcha, yeah.
And I will say this too. When we had the separation of state and church, people say that's a huge step for human freedom. When we have the separation of state and money, that will be the next major step for human freedom.
Yeah. So do you know, do other countries have like a Federal Reserve, like a central bank, like every country does?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, the federal bank is basically like since Bretton Woods and after World War II, we said the dollar is backed by gold, and all your currencies around the world, you could back it to the dollar.
Yeah.
Yes. Then 1971, they closed the window of convertibility. Actually, France was sending submarines to America to get the gold.
Oh, really?
And that's why they closed the gold window, because they said you no longer can redeem the gold. Yeah.
Oh, wait. So like they were sending submarines to redeem.
Yes.
What is this, like a period of like we're at the precipice of an economic collapse or like a recession or something?
It was 1971. I mean, yeah. And then it's considered the biggest like scandal of history.
So this was the reason we de-tied, because we're like, we're not giving you all this gold.
Yeah.
Huh.
And so we closed the window, said the dollar is no longer backed by gold, and that's why you had all this inflation in the 70s.
Yeah.
Because we just started printing it. It's backed by nothing but our trust. And if you stop trusting,
it's like a communal agreement that this dollar is still worth $1. Yeah.
But that's the issue. I mean, I was just reading last night on Germany and the Weimar period from World War I in 1919. The Saint Germain policy of 1919 basically resulted in like the hyperinflation of Germany in the Weimar Republic, because the kronen, the currency, went from 12 billion in 1920 to 30 billion. And then from 1920 to 21, it went to 147 billion.
Well, and this is just from printing.
From printing, because of the reparations that Germany had to pay. So from 8 years, from the beginning of the war to the end of 1922, consumer prices increased 14,000%.
Whoa.
Yes. And that's why you had, people.
So this is like hyperinflation.
This is hyperinflation. People had to pawn their assets, sell off things. People were living in fear. They were starving. You had food police going around to make sure you aren't hoarding food.
Really?
Yes. Trying to just sell your jewelry.
This is in Germany?
In Germany.
This is like during like Nazi Germany?
This was before the Nazi Germany.
Oh, wow.
So
like what year?
After World War I. So from
Early
1914 to 1922.
Wow.
This 8-year period. And there was this journal by Frau Eisenmenger. Didn't read the journal, but I was reading about her journal. Mm-hmm. And she was just trying to feed her children. And it was just like she went from like upper wealthy middle class to just like poor. She ended up getting shot in the lung by her own child.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
she raised a shitty child, though.
I mean, they were starving. They were upset. Yeah. There was even, I believe it was, where was it? Signs saying, "Do not eat your own children."
Whoa.
I don't think this was Germany. This was somewhere else.
I do remember hearing that. This was during something crazy.
Yeah. So if you want, I'll tell you about my research because I'm very excited. I just submitted an application for the Mises Institute. Great institute. That's the namesake of Ludwig von Mises, the student of Karl Menger. Considered the dean of the Austrian School of Economic Thought. Yeah. And I've been there a couple times. They do like the Austrian Economic Research Conference every year, the Mises University, a 1-week summer program for anyone, but mostly students to teach Austrian economics. That changed my life. And then they have the fellowship program, which is a summer fellowship. You spend 3 months at the institute doing research. So your 8 to 5 is reading and writing. And I applied February 27th. I'll see if I got approved. This will be my 3rd time applying. So
wow. And where is it located?
It's located in Auburn, Alabama.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yes. Right across the street from Auburn University. And they had some connections there. So that's why they're established there. But I'll be writing about how inflation leads to moral hazard, war, and suicide. And one of the things that inspired my research was this book called Promise Me You'll Shoot Yourself, which was about in East Germany at the end of World War II, the Soviet Union was steamrolling into East Germany. All the Nazis pulled back. So no one was defending these villages. And basically what happened was the Germans were hearing these horror stories of the Russian meat grinder just like burning the villages, raping everyone, killing them. So the families were like, okay, we're not going to live through this. So basically you had an epidemic of suicides with families.
Wow.
Because they didn't want to suffer that. So, there was a lot of gas, so cyanide. So people were taking cyanide tablets if they had it, if they didn't have that, if they had a gun.
Just to not be captured by the
Just
government.
to not be captured. They would shoot themselves. If they didn't have a gun, they would hang themselves. They would drown themselves in the rivers. Mothers who drowned their children and couldn't drown themselves had to live with what they did to their own children.
Yeah.
And basically, if you have an epidemic of suicide, this is not a cause of mental disturbance, mental illness, financial anxiety. This is a cause of war.
Yeah.
This is a byproduct of it.
You said you were writing a dissertation about how inflation leads to suicide.
Yes.
And so would you say that applies to suicide in America today?
Yeah. I mean, when people say, he's stressed because of financial anxiety. Okay, well, what changed in your finances for this to happen? I trace, only an economist can answer that.
Massive inflation.
Massive inflation. I mean, there's a Jeffrey Degner, a friend of the Mises Institute. He just wrote his dissertation on inflation in the family and how in the 1950s, 12% of 30-year-olds didn't own a home and were not married. Today, the percentage of 30-year-olds who are not married and don't own a home is 50%.
Wow. So it's probably even more than that, you'd imagine.
Yeah, it's probably increasing.
Yeah, it just came out recently that the median home buyer age is now 40 years old.
Yeah.
First-time home buyer.
Yes.
First-time home buyer, is 40 years old.
And I mean, this is an effect of inflation. So what does that do to your culture when people aren't owning assets, they're not connected to the community?
Yeah.
It has a demoralizing effect on people.
And it does also, I feel create this down with the whole fucking system type thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you have a system, a state, but people are okay, you don't mind.
Yeah.
But when people aren't okay, they mind.
You can't afford food. No one can afford a house. Rent is insane. Cars are incredibly expensive. It's incredibly expensive just to eat out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why it's so important to understand what inflation is. It's a policy. All governments do it, and they end because of hyperinflation. And what we have with fiat money is a slow motion of this. So just repeal legal tender laws, have markets for money, and the Federal Reserve, it sounds easier than it is, and have freedom. And
okay, so what would replace the Federal Reserve? Would there be some sort of central bank, or like would we say like the money that's in circulation, this is it? Now we're like rocking with this.
Yes, essentially that. I mean, yeah, but a market for money, so you can have competing currencies. If people want to use gold-backed currencies, if people want to use Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, if people want to use alternative theories of money, like the Valiant system, which my professor, Darren Jurgen, teaches, I'm still trying to understand this, where it's not inflationary or deflationary, because the problems with gold and Bitcoin is that they're deflationary.
Stable coins.
Is
that the thought? Something like that?
More so that there's a fixed supply of Bitcoin. There's only 21 billion Bitcoin or million Bitcoin, and they're divisible to like 8 decimal points.
Yeah.
And the lowest decimal point is the Satoshi. But essentially, like, there's issues with deflation. I don't want to get too much into that. But the bigger issues we have today are inflation. So the federal bank is just, it's monetary policy, fiscal policy. It's the socialization of money.
Yeah.
Okay, this is like incompatible with the free society.
Yeah.
This is what funds wars and the military-industrial complex and everything probably bad that I would say is bad in society, which is the university systems teaching this bullshit of socialism and classism, but it's just to distract people from what's really going on.
You don't think they actually believe that's the solution?
There's true believers, but for the most part, I think it's mostly propaganda. I mean, I went to Occidental, like where Obama went. Like I experienced in my Spanish class, the Spanish professor is like, "You really know why you're here?" Showing us like Che Guevara and teaching us communism and stuff.
Oh,
like that.
really?
Oh, yeah. It's so anti-capitalism. Yes, through all the departments, really.
Really?
I mean, yeah. It's
they teach like
there's no diversity
socialism?
of thought. Yes, absolutely. Anti-capitalism.
And so
I had professors who were Maoists my first year of college.
Whoa, really?
Yes.
Wow.
That's how it is.
Don't they like see like, hey, that didn't work out too well?
No, because the university professors are removed from society, from the market.
Yeah.
Okay, knowledgeable people, brilliant people, not wise, not understanding what actually makes society operate as a dynamic, evolving process.
That's interesting. It's like I heard like you could go to business school to learn from some fucking asshole that's never ran a business in their life.
Yeah.
And you're paying $100,000 a year from some guy it's all theoretical. They've never actually done it.
Yes. And so now Occidental is like 80,000 a year and the quality is going to shit. So that's most universities.
So are there classes so when you like take economics, then it just happens to be like the socialism is what they're teaching, or is like there's sort of an undertone towards like the whole school?
So what they teach in universities in economics, Econ 101, is like supply and demand. Okay, this is from the neoclassical synthesis, which was started by like Leon Walras, Alfred Marshall, these guys who were saying they had physics envy. They wanted to be like the physicists, like the natural sciences. So how do we make economics more like these natural sciences? So they created all these mathematical modeling, all the supply and demand graphs that say, we're trying to approach equilibrium. This is the terminology of physics. And that's how economics became corrupted. And then you had
so I've heard this argument too, like for the same thing for like psychology, like people like want like the other disciplines envied the physics, and then like psychology wants to like prove something within like a half a standard deviation or something.
Yes.
So what was the reason that people love physics so much, or
physicists
wanted to
were considered like the cream of the crop scientist. They were considered like the most impressive, the most intelligent, and
they're like the most prestigious. Like there's nothing higher than like a physics professor.
If you understand physics, wow, like how much of the world do you understand? Like space and time, all these things. And with economics, they wanted that. It's probably the same thing with psychology too, where they said, if we can pull these levers up and down, if we can just organize people in the right way, then we can have these outcomes.
Yeah.
And it's very utilitarian, but it's for social engineering. They want people to just fall in line, follow orders, don't think for yourself, don't be free, and you'll be free. It's the promise. So and then you had Keynesian macroeconomics, which was also just an incredible deviation away from what economics really is and for society too. Because Keynes was basically demand side theory, which is that, if we just give more people money, this is what drives the economy, consumption. But the Austrians were like, bro, like it's investment and savings that drive the economy. That's what creates capital accumulation.
Not just like something for nothing.
Yeah, it just like when you just buy things and give people money, you're not producing any new goods and services in society. You're just giving more people more money.
Yeah.
But Keynes, again, like if you look into him, Ed Fuller, a friend of mine, writes a lot about Keynes and how he was a non-Marxist socialist.
Yeah.
His father as well, like married a Russian ballerina and stuff like that. And even like the biography of Keynes by I forget his name, but it's like a total puff piece and stuff like this. But that's the thing, is like economics is so foundational for civilization, and they want to complicate it so people don't know what's going on. So that monetary policy and fiscal policy, a 2% inflation target rate, is like super scientific. It's not. It's just an illusion. Economists have been like deballed, they're like told to stay in their lane, just focus on, it's just 700 level derivative mathematics. They're not talking about the social sciences, which is what economics is and was prior to the 20th century, primarily. So economics is considered the queen of the social sciences.
What's the king of the social sciences?
The king, I don't know, but I heard this from a philosopher that I liked. He's like, the more I look into philosophy, the more I come back to economics.
Interesting.
Yes, economics is a philosophy. It's understanding.
Well, it's also one of the problems with it too, though, because like socialism is like this philosophy where you can create like a utopian picture that you could tell people about, but like the actual implementation of it is where the fucking rubber meets the road, and like we discover like what works and what doesn't.
I mean, but like if we question socialism, one of the tenets of socialism is equality. Why is equality a good thing? Also it's interesting that equality and diversity literally mean the exact opposite thing. Like to have diversity means difference, unequal. Yeah. I want less equality in the world. Obviously, I want people to be more wealthy and live materially better. But if that comes at the cost of, the entrepreneur having 10 jets instead of one jet, some people don't want that because they become envious. Inequality, the best producers will have the most profits. And most of the time the profits go back into the business. But the issue is with the politicization of society, people who can make money with the snap of their fingers, with the Federal Reserve, produce nothing but attain wealth. It's basically a redistribution. It's a form of taxation.
Yeah.
Then you have political inequality. And people think that's capitalism. That's not capitalism.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a very important distinction to be made.
And I think as far as equality, like people are thinking maybe like on a moral level, like as of everyone's equal, not necessarily, or I guess is the socialism thought everyone's equal
materially.
Yeah, materially.
Right.
So like we went into it briefly. What are the main problems in your opinion with socialism?
Socialism, the first and foremost problem is it's the economic problem or the calculation problem. When you don't have prices, there's no way to efficiently allocate society's scarce resources. That's why you always have shortages or surpluses. And usually it's shortages in like food.
Yeah.
There's no creativity in socialism.
So why is that? Because of no price setting, then we're just like allocating the resources like evenly, even though this might be like worth $1 and this is like $100, we're giving them both.
Yes, essentially it's going based off targets and dictate. And so there's no new creation, entrepreneurial creativity. Capital accumulation becomes capital consumption. You can't burn the couch you burn today for warmth tomorrow. And so that's why socialism leads to what Mises called destructionism. And it's the complete destruction of civilization.
So like these professors that were like Maoist socialists, is that what you said they were?
Yeah.
Maoist socialists. What's like their argument for why that works well?
Their argument, I think, is, well, the professor I'm thinking of in particular taught critical theory and social justice. So they're saying that like, the issue is this inequality and we need to redistribute this material wealth so that people are more equal. And they're also theorists. They want there's nowhere really in history they can look at as far as like where this redistribution in socialism worked.
Or it worked well. Yeah. Like it's been done before, but not worked well.
Right. You know, that's the same thing for capitalism. Okay.
Yeah. But like, so isn't like it pretty well known? And I'm not like a Maoist expert, but isn't it pretty well known that like Mao's like reign ended in like millions of deaths and like it's not gone
the
well?
Great Leap, but he didn't go good enough. He didn't go far enough, you know?
So like he was doing it, but just not doing it right.
Exactly. That's the argument. Yeah. Same thing with Cuba, you know, they were doing it, but they didn't do it right.
Yeah.
So we need to do it here, but we'll do it right.
Yeah.
And a great economist who passed away a couple years, Yuri Maltsev, was a Russian economist and, you know, worked in Gorbachev's government in the Soviet Union. And he said, you know, it's amazing to see you Americans adopt the position we so quickly and gladly abandoned. And, you know, even with healthcare, Obamacare is the window to socialized medicine. So with socialism, it's not just the abolition of private property and material things. It's abolition of private property on everything, on your life, on your body. So that's why socialists, the first things they want to take over is
like healthcare.
Yes, education and healthcare. Because if they run the healthcare, I mean, the first law passed in Nazi Germany was the socialization of medical care. So, you know, it not only leads to like eugenics, but it basically is the decision of your healthcare provider, which becomes a state of, you know, what treatments you get, who gets to live, who doesn't get to live.
But so like they're making all those decisions right now. And aren't we like in a semi-public market as far as like insurance and whatnot?
Yeah, definitely. But the thing is, all these regulations squeeze and allow for the like basically the cartelization of these provision of goods and services to basically like increase their prices. So think of universities. Because we're subsidizing university education so much, that allows the universities to increase their prices because, wow, we're going to get these loans, like we'll increase the price. Same thing with healthcare and insurance companies, like because it's so regulated and the government wants to be another payer in that market.
Are the healthcare industry subsidized?
Essentially, in the sense that like, well, they're super regulated. There's only like 3 per state. You can't have interstate insurance, and the government is like another payer. So even in like at Occidental, like I took health economics, and the idea is like, should we have like single payer healthcare, or should we have, you know, the market for healthcare? And first of all, healthcare is what you do for yourself. Medical care is what people can do for you. So
I think that's what most people are referring to when they say healthcare. They're referring to medical care.
Definitely. But with medical care, you know, also a reason why it's so expensive is like the great innovations we've made with like knee replacement, hip replacement, bypass surgeries. Okay, these things were non-existent like 100 years ago.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
But it does seem to be fucked right now.
It's super fucked.
Yeah.
But it's because of the markets, the government interventions in the markets. And it's like artificially inflating the prices.
Less competition.
There's less competition. Yeah. And the thing is, it's like the argument is, well, we need regulations. But think about this. If there was regulations for cars and vehicles, and it was like, you have to drive a vehicle at the standard of Mercedes. I think maybe, yeah. And then you'd have Mercedes on the roads, but not everyone can afford a Mercedes.
So not everyone would have one.
No, everyone would have it. Yeah, that's why you have the shortage of medical care. Also, the issue with the government providing medical care is that people, again, become liabilities rather than assets. And so when you have liabilities, you want to decrease your liabilities.
Well, that's essentially what every person is on healthcare. They're like a liability, right?
Yes.
Because it's just like their whole goal, their private business is to make as much money as they can on the income and like reduce payouts as much as they can. So they want to increase your monthly fee as much as they can. And anytime you actually need them to pay anything, their goal is to reduce that as much as they can. Absolutely.
But the distinction is with like the market, the true market is people are not liabilities, they're assets. And so when they're assets, you want to take care of your assets.
Yeah. If there was more competition, you wouldn't be able to, that would even out a little bit more.
Absolutely. It's when there's no competition, like socialism, that people go from assets to liabilities. And so if you look at the Soviet Union, you know, if you had an issue over the age of 55, they would just give you an aspirin and told you to go home, say goodbye to your family.
Because you're too old.
Because you're too old. Old people don't produce anything for society. They're just parasites. They live off everyone else.
So this would be like an example of like late stage socialized healthcare.
Socialism. Yeah, socialized medical care. Socialized medical care also, because there's no prices, right? There's no profits. Doctors in the Soviet Union got the salary 1/3 that of bus drivers.
Whoa.
So there's a shortage of doctors, medical
Yeah, because
staff.
no one's going to... I'm going to be a bus driver before I be a fucking doctor.
Right, exactly. They don't have the equipment. There's cats in the surgery rooms.
Whoa.
They keep people basically with targets. You want a full hospital, but full of healthy people, because who can die is sick people.
Yeah.
So if anyone's going to die, you push them out of the hospital. So it looks like, you have a full hospital, so you need more money, but it's sick people. So you just keep people there to do tests and tests and tests. And
is there anyone right now that has like really good healthcare across the world? I feel like the ones that are like maybe like Norway or something, and it's a more socialized healthcare.
The thing is that the fallacy with Norway and the Scandinavian countries is, after World War II from the 1950s, they were socialized, but they've been privatizing because it hasn't worked out for them. There was no new private businesses and jobs created from like the late 20th part of the 20th century. So they've been privatizing. I don't know specifically about Norway. I think I want to say Switzerland maybe has good,
really good healthcare,
better medical care. Yeah.
I just know like ours is fucked.
It's
Mine
fucked.
For Taylor and I, like they made a 40% increase this year. So now I pay $1,400 a month for insurance, and it covers basically nothing. Like I feel like everywhere I fucking go, like I have to pay either the entire bill or the majority of it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But again, like this is due to the interventions. Bastiat as well. Henry Hazlitt wrote a good book called Economics in One Lesson, where he talks about this idea of Bastiat, which is the unseen consequences of market interventions, or the seen and the unseen. That's the test of a good economist. You see prices are high, and you think that's the market. But the unseen cause that led to these higher prices is all the government intervention. So the government intervenes, creates distortions. To correct for the distortions, they intervene more. And it goes back and back and back.
Interesting.
Until it goes step by step to socialism.
It's just like the example that we gave with the big banks. Like the unseen is like all the regulation that they thought were preventing any sort of major downturn of overlending and whatnot. But in the reality, what they've created is no one with like a little bit of money that wants to start a bank can, because it takes millions and tens of, I don't know how many, like tens of millions of dollars just to get through all the regulation. So in reality, like the implementation of it is only the big banks can start new banks now.
Yes. And also you have to comply with the regulation. You have to comply with the FDIC. You have to have this on-staff
lawyer team that has just like an incredible amount of money. So, and then also too, banks make money by taking deposits, giving out loans, and making interest on those loans. So in reality, there should be like long-term thinkers. It should be someone with like a ton of money that wants to give it out and like lend it out. They're not like someone who's looking for, quick hits like the stock market or something. It's these like sort of long-term plays. So if you're like a new person that wants to start a bank, it could be like, I don't know, some incredible amount of time before you're making money on your money now, especially if you're giving out like, say, 30-year mortgages or something. You're probably not profitable until like year 15 or something. So like that for a small time person to give out to start a bank is just impossible now.
Yeah. It's the politicization of money that can produce these effects, and all the regulations and stuff. Also, with my research, which you may find interesting, but like, it's not just how inflation leads to suicide, but also militarism. 1 in 4 veterans commit suicide. And I find militarism and military history super interesting because the military is the arm of the state.
Yeah.
The state, as Randolph Bourne said, war is the health of the state. To exist, to justify their existence, there needs to be war, whether it's a war on poverty, a war on drugs, a war on international terrorism, a war on a virus. Okay, we need to spend money and
be fighting something.
And militarize society. And there's a good book by Thomas Hippler on the like militarizing of society in Prussia and France, like just before the revolutionary period. And he talks about like the disciplinarian revolution and how basically, if you become a soldier, this is what an honorable citizen is. Someone who's patriotic. Like you're willing to give your life. Also, we'll pay you a bunch of money and like provide all these benefits to your family.
But this is like paramount as far as like a job in society is becoming a soldier.
Yes.
It's like the theory of Valhalla. Like Valhalla is like only for those who have died in war. That was like the best for these like Nordic people, was that like if you died in war, there was no better way to die is like dying like fighting for your country.
Exactly. That makes you like honorable and good and if you're also obedient to the military leaders.
Yeah. Well, at some point, this was probably like a real thing when we just lived in small villages of like a couple hundred people or 1,000 people or something. If you went out and defended your fucking, saved the women and children of the area, like what better honor than to keep our little clique alive,
Yeah.
But as we get bigger and bigger, we're like, we need a fucking. There's a lot of oil in the Middle East. Let's go get this.
Yes, yeah.
But and it's supposed to be the same sort of honor that like you've done this to defend your country. You're the reason we have freedom. But in reality, the whole reason for this initial war was completely money driven.
Yes, absolutely. And armies back then were more seasonal. But then to create a standing army, you needed to have more money to like pay for the army to be more like, instead of just a militia, to be like defending the nation state. And yeah, I mean, that's really what it is. It's propaganda.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the reason like suicide is so high with veterans is because they'll go out, maybe kill someone, and they've signed up for the military only because, you feel like this is such a high honor. You feel like you're really like giving up your own personal, I don't know, everything. You're giving up your whole life for a minimum 4-year contract to serve the people. Like this is like a massive honor that like you feel you're undertaking, and it's very selfless and very altruistic. And you go out there and you maybe are in like you're actually deployed in war. You kill someone in a country that you're in. You've never been there. You don't know who that person was. And then once all the dust settles, you're back in home. You're not in a war state anymore. You realize you're like, fuck, was that like for a good reason? You listen to fucking Tim Dillon and Alex Jones, and you're like, wait, are these? Should we have not like raided these countries before? And think that maybe the whole war in the first place was for a horrible reason, and maybe like it's that cognitive dissonance of like I thought I was really doing a good thing, and then like after reflection, you grow up as a person. Usually people like enlist when they're 18 years old. Now maybe you're 30, and you're like, fuck, I gotta like live with myself after doing these like atrocities, and then that sort of thing I feel like is what maybe creates a lot of suicide.
Absolutely, yeah. That, and I think it's a hyper socialization, so regimented. Your whole life is like really like ordered and organized in that sense.
That's like a North Korean, like perfect. If everyone could just be like military, like, you wake up at this time, you do this. That is interesting because that is like what they'll do to them too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I totally agree. I think when they come back and if they question like, why did we do that in the first place? Why did I really go over there? Mm-hmm. And I think that can trouble a lot of veterans.
Like I've got a friend who was like deployed in war. He was like he's a veteran. I think he did maybe 10 years or something. And he talks about he doesn't feel he has any PTSD because anything he did, it was like justified at the time. It was like there was a real need. But he's like, there were some people that I was with that just get over there and they're fucking trigger happy. They're like ready to go. They're hyped up. They're like, fuck the Middle East. They're, really I guess like propagandized probably by the reason that they're there in the first place. And then once they come back and like they realize, well, fuck, maybe I shouldn't have done all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unfortunate. I was thinking that like, I think joining the military, it's like a form of male prostitution. Like you're selling your body, you're selling your life for what? You know what I mean? Like to be used, you're a slave, essentially. Conscription is like, you're not free. The state has a higher claim to your life and body than you do.
Well, Well, I took like an applied philosophy class, and there's an argument that all work is a form of like prostitution, or there's not like a good way to like distinguish, because at any time you're at a job using your body, they're paying you to use your body.
Yes.
So
I agree with that.
Because it's not your butthole, it doesn't mean that they're not paying you to use your hands or something.
Yeah, it's not necessarily sexual, but it is your body. I agree. Yeah, I think the labor, it's like you're prostituting yourself.
But it may be to an extreme extent with the military, because they literally own you.
It's slavery at that point. And the issue is, with the American education system, we have the Prussian education system. And so the whole idea of the Prussian education system was like, fuck, all these guys are running off the battlefield when we want to go to war. Like, how do we stop this? So they take children at birth and train them to be obedient, good soldiers for the Prussia Empire. And
this was the Prussian like school of thought, or
Prussian education system, which was the social and geographical precursors to the Nazis.
So they would actually take babies?
Not babies, but children, very young children at like 4 or 5 years old, and raise them in their education system.
Separate from the parents, or this is just like the education system for this society?
This was the education system. So think of it like day prisons for children.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, it could be like our school care today. You're just giving your kids for like 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like, who knows what they're teaching them?
Yes. So our education system was based from Horace Mann, the godfather of American public education, adopted this system, said, well, if it can make good soldiers there, like it would be good for us here. Then you have a good book by Bella Dodd called School of Darkness. And she was a former card-carrying communist writing about how, we communists were just infiltrating the schools as well as like part of the Catholic Church to just basically raise more communist revolutionaries through the school system. And she testified in like Congress all about this stuff. Yeah. It's a good book. But that's what the education system is basically, it's a philosophical question. Should we have public education? Okay. The state can provide like 3 hours, right? Reading, writing, arithmetic. And then beyond that is questions of values and culture and, ethics, morality. And that's when they begin to instill propaganda of, wow, actually, America, like we're the leaders. We have democracy. Why don't we just spread our beautiful ideas of democracy around the world? Yeah. Foreign policy, fight for freedom.
We'll just carpet bond them and then, put up a mall.
Yes.
And then they're like, okay.
Yes.
They'll just accept it.
Yeah. And all the ideas of like global homo and stuff of like, I believe it was with like Hillary Clinton saying that like, oh yeah, we'll give you this funding, USAID, but you gotta have like a leader, a president who's willing to like support gay rights and stuff, and then we'll give you the money. And that was the agenda. And they did it in many countries.
And they did that? That was a real thing?
Yes, yeah. And like I think parts of Africa and stuff like that. Yeah, no, global homo. I mean,
and so were they like actually in support of? Did they find people that were actually in support of gay people?
Yes,
or like
because they want the money. Yeah, so it's like okay.
Well, like that's what I'm saying. Like, would it be like, especially in Africa, some of those people are like they'll like execute their like known gays and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where this was happening, but like even like Europe too. I mean, if you look at like foreign policy today, right? In 2014 in Ukraine, we had the color-coded revolutions and like the overthrowing of the Ukrainian president to prop up a president who is more pro-US. And this gets into the whole idea of like, NATO military expansion, eastward towards Russia and things like this. And then things with like Iran too, like putting all the blockades, even our own country with tariffs. I mean, this was like the mercantilist idea, but because we live in a political world, people will be like, oh, the 4D chess because they were imposing tariffs on us. Yeah, I mean, but in theory, economic theory, when you impose tariffs, you're just putting higher prices on products that we were going to import and sell to consumers. So now, even if we produce it domestically, it's less efficient. It's going to be a higher price.
What's to guarantee that it's less efficient?
Comparative advantage. I mean, the reason why we bought so many things from China is
it's cheaper. Labor over there.
Yeah. So, we could produce things maybe of even arguably better quality, but that doesn't mean it's going to be cheaper, let alone more supply. And so also the money from the tariffs, like the taxes on it, it goes to the government. Okay, it's not going to the U.S. citizens. We're not better off with tariffs. In fact, I would argue we're worse off. And so things like this, I mean, politics and economics, very interconnected. And then philosophy too. Like, yeah, if you're going to understand civilization, human action, human nature in the world, then you understand like the science of exchange, and that's catallaxy, the heart of economics, the science of exchange, which is basically it turns enemies into friends. Politics is turning friends into enemies.
Yeah.
That's why I'm an anarcho-capitalist. And all my professors are too, from Darren in Los Angeles, and then, as I mentioned, going to Mises University over that week, summer program, and meeting some friends who's encouraged me to study in Spain with Huerta de Soto and do my master's program there. And like all my professors, like 6 of them were anarchists, and like Huerta's a legend in Spain. And now I'm in the PhD program, and that's been my dream since like college, really.
How awesome. In Spain is where you're going to do it?
Well, I'm in it now. It's just research and writing. So there's no classes. It's just take 3 years, write a 300-page dissertation, and get it published as a book. And that's your PhD. And that's what I'm working on.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So I have about like 200 pages.
Pretty doable.
It's doable. Absolutely. and it's just taught me a lot too about like, you can do it anywhere. It just takes discipline. And
yeah. But you've been to Spain a couple times too, right?
Yeah. So I lived there for the year during the master's program, 2021 to 22. And then I go back every year in the fall for the Austrian Economic Research Conference that they hold.
Wow.
And I'll present, meet my professors, talk to them and stuff. Yeah.
Stop by 10th Planet Barcelona.
Yes.
While you're out there.
Yeah. Shout out them. Shout out Manu.
That's sick.
I mean, yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, so like, you said like all your professors are anarchist capitalists? Is
yes.
How you describe it?
The political philosophy is anarchism compared to monarchy, rule of one, oligarchy, rule of few, democracy, rule of many. Anarchism is just like no political hierarchy, the market process, natural hierarchies, rule of the people. Yeah. Yes, to the most extent. And then economic system of capitalism. The other, the former anarchists were anarcho-communists of like the 19th and 20th century who wanted socialism. They wanted the economic system of socialism, but anarchism and communism was like their political philosophy. But now anarchists are like capitalists. Yeah, we're just like, no, the government's inefficient, it's bureaucratic. Yeah. It's like a cancer on society, so let's get rid of it.
And so besides those small little towns, has this been like implemented throughout history at all?
No, again, that's the thing is like civilization is young. I mean, like we had, people were philosophizing democracy 2,000 years before it was ever implemented. Da Vinci was theorizing the helicopter. He was drawing it on a napkin before it was ever created. So we're theorizing now what civilization can look like amidst a time of the political nation state.
And so have you given any thought to like transitions? And like what the transitionary period, because like starting from scratch to create this seems like you said, like we said, it's not a utopian type thing, but like it seems like a reasonable thought. But like, what about transitioning from like like say America into like an anarchist communist or anarchist capitalist?
Definitely.
State?
I think the transition okay. There was major revolutions throughout history with like the agrarian revolution to farming, rather from like scavenging, hunting and scavenging, to the industrial revolution of capital accumulation and investments. And then we had the technological and digital revolution, which technology has been super pivotal in how we can interact with the world and connect with everyone. The end of slavery in 1865 in the West was a major step for human freedom. The next major step for human freedom will be the abolition of the state or the separation of the state. And I think it's the production of money. What we need is a monetary revolution because money is like how we interact with the world. If we don't own our money, we don't own our money. They tax it, which means they have a higher claim to our money than we do. And when you have that system, you're not fully free. So we first needed the educational revolution of like teaching people what freedom is about and what liberty is about and what the nation state is. And then a monetary revolution, I think, will be peaceful. We don't need to we just need to close the doors of the Federal Reserve. Burn it if you want, but we're not violent. I'm not violent. I want peace. That's what we want is peace. The state just creates war, it creates chaos. That's why I'm anti-state.
So if you had like a magic wand and you could make like, X amount of immediate changes to the United States, like what are like the first 3 or 5 things?
Definitely, I would say, and the Federal Reserve and the military industrial complex have markets for money, which is repealing legal tender laws, which is basically like the law that says the dollar has to be used as legal tender, the medium of exchange. I would say, and Department of Education, and have markets for justice. The Department of Justice is politicized as well, and then you get into these theories of like, I mean, that's what I would say first, but like the theories of like, the different branches of government, the executive, judicial, and legislative. Yeah. Okay, the executive branch is just like nominal. The president doesn't do anything. He comes into office. All the foreign policy is bubbled up by the Pentagon, which is the national security state, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the CIA, the NSA. They write the policy, and they outnumber the presidential executive staff like 12-1 or 60-1.
Wow,
I forget the number. Yeah, so they're super outnumbered. Okay, when you vote today, you're not really voting for like who's going to lead the country. You're just voting for like a name, but all the policies are the same. Yeah. It's the test of like Queen Elizabeth I and Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen Elizabeth I can say off with your head. Queen Elizabeth II doesn't have that power. The president, lost that power, the executive branch. So it's just a legislative branch. They make all the policies, all the laws. So probably like get rid of that. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, maybe down with the CIA and stuff. But so like this is like
and take out the military bases, stuff like that.
This is what's interesting though, if like there was like a instant transition though, because like say we've demilitarized the United States, like what's gonna stop China and Russia or like China and North Korea from teaming up and just fucking taking us over?
Well, the thing is, we're kind of encouraging them to do that right now. I think because of our foreign policy and our monetary policy, we've basically militarized our money. Our biggest export is inflation. So they're looking for this alternative of like BRICS. That was the idea, another currency backed by gold, Brazil, Russia, China, India, I forget where else. But what's encouraging them is our aggressive foreign policy, trying to get like it, I mean, the overthrow of the Venezuelan president, I heard like 40% of crude oil in China came from Venezuela. So that's something, but also like Ukraine, NATO.
Maybe that's true. I heard Venezuela actually didn't have a massive output of oil, even though they're the biggest holders in the world, because like they don't have like the infrastructure to do so. Yeah,
I don't know exactly too much about it. It was either 20 or 40%, and it was like crude oil. It wasn't refined either.
Okay, yeah.
But I would say the market system would keep them. We had great relations in the economic sense with Russia in the early 2000s, post Cold War. We're falling into this trap of like trying to maintain a world empire, and that's bankrupting us, and that's pushing these countries to actually consider like, do we have to like team up to fight America or something like that? No, we can have markets. We put all these blockades and on Russia at the outbreak of the war with Ukraine, because we're anti-Russia. We don't need to be. We can just call them up, have some vodka. Let's make the deals happen again. But we're pushing them into this situation.
So here's a thought. So what if like, say you got like convinced like a country like say Australia or something to be an anarchist capitalist, and then all of a sudden, everyone, it's like a free market, everyone's armed, there's like a public or a private rather military and like a private defense and all this stuff. What's to stop America from saying like, they're not really democratized enough. Let's go over there and fuck them up.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's, again, that's a description of the status quo that we have. We don't like your leader. They're not playing ball.
Yeah,
so we'll overthrow them.
We're going to go over there and capture him.
The thing is, this can't last forever.
Yeah.
Okay, the empires fail because of really money. I mean, this is why money is so important. If you look at the Roman Empire collapsed because of hyperinflation. They devalued the currency and then imposed price controls. And so then you had such a undermined civilization by the own government, that allowed for the invading barbarian tribes to come in and wipe it out. Okay, it's an economic phenomena that results in the undermining and destruction of empires. We can't bankroll the empire forever. We're already in such a big deficit that with the debt that this isn't sustainable.
Yeah. I do agree. If a more wealthy society creates for like a healthier society too, because sort of like what we were saying earlier, if everyone can afford a car, afford a house, raise kids and stuff comfortably, then it ties people more to their neighborhood too, or ties people more to like the well-being of like their just local area. It doesn't have to be necessarily the exact place you live, but you want to see things good because you have a little piece of the pie. I feel like if you're just fucking renting constantly, if you're in like some apartment complex in downtown Phoenix and like, you've got a year-long lease, they're going to raise it by 20% next year. You're going to be moving and you've done this for the past like 10 years. You have no real tie to like your area. And meanwhile, also too, you can't afford to go out to eat. So you also can't like afford to take anyone out on dates. Means like you're not having kids. You're not going to like, you don't have any sort of like real reason to want everything to do better.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is unfortunately what democracy produces. Because if you compare that to a monarchy, the monarchist owns the land. He wants to retain the value of the land, pass it on, have something of equivalent value or more valuable to his heirs. Mm-hmm. So he's thinking in the long term. Mm-hmm. Democratic politicians basically are renters of the land. They can't sell it on the market because they don't own it. So they want to extract all the value that they can now.
Like within that 4-year term or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the revolving door of democratic lobbying. And
interesting. Were there democratic states before the United States?
Democracy really became popular after World War I. That's when basically the 20th century is when we had this democratic revolution. Before that, it was monarchs. I mean, that's what most of human history was under. Yeah. We also didn't have the technology and industrial revolution and capital accumulation to create like prospering civilizations.
Well, like our democracy started in like the 1700s, right? Like America was founded as like
I would say that was the heir of the founders. They thought we needed a democracy. I mean, and Professor Hans Hermann Hoppe makes this argument very compellingly that like, if the founders were like, we're going to retain the strong powers of the monarch, we would be infinitely times richer than what we are now because democracy is...
Really? You think if they would have just stayed like, hey, we need to keep the kings?
Yes. Yeah, because democracy just... as I said, like it is nothing more than a moderate form of communism. It just leads to social or capital consumption, social consumption.
Well, then why do like not the other countries that have kings or maintain monarchies? How come they haven't been so much more prosperous than us?
Well, part of that is like the history of the 20th century where, a historian will say, look at the 20th century. Okay, we went from monarchies to democracies and the world got so much wealthier. But the problem is that because of democracy or in spite of democracy? And the economists will say it's in spite of democracy. We had the Industrial Revolution, technological revolution. So many things occur in the 20th century that resulted in more prosperity. We also had the political nation state becoming more of a democracy. But we had like the biggest expansion of our government. We went from the world's smallest government to the world's largest government. Now we're in debt, like so much money in debt. And we're hopefully a failing republic more than a failing empire. But we also instilled democracies around the world after like World War I and with World War II.
We try to make other countries democratic.
Yeah, with the unipolar moment, for sure. But the president was designed to be like a king. They just changed the name of it, and then the branches of government. But that doesn't do anything. It's the same entity. It's the government entity.
Yeah. The president has immense power, for sure.
He used to. Like, if you look at Lincoln, if you look at FDR, during their times of war, they were basically like the kings of the land. Now the president is like a figurehead.
Yeah. Although they've got a lot of power, though, too. I mean, you could see just through like executive orders that
the thing is, I would say it's this national security state, the CIA, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the NSA, they have immense power and they say we just need the figurehead to be like the figure of our power. Yeah. The political power is immense. And we think it's the president making these decisions, but it's just a person who's being told kind of what to say, what to do.
Maybe a combination, you think?
It's a combination.
Or you think regardless of who's the figurehead, like the same things will happen?
Yeah, I mean, think about it like this. Like, say you win the election, and then maybe they take you in a room, they sit you down and be like, it was nice what you're running on, but like, this is how things are going to go.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what happened in the Soviet Union.
You think there's I think you think it's 100% that, or you think it's a combination of like, hey, this, it's nice that, you want to do all these things, but there's some people that are going to lose some money if we go that direction.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the latter. Like it's like there's a good book by Michael Glennon called Double Government and National Security. And I mean, think about it like this: like if you stop the wars, that honeypot dries up. The whole foreign policy, military expansion. If so many people are making money like
off the war
through the state. So no, they want to keep this going. I mean, that's the bureaucracy. There's a good joke that like it takes a trash can load of paperwork to take out the trash can in a bureaucracy. I don't think I said that right, but I saw it in a Japanese film about bureaucracy in like the 1950s. Anyways, I think it's the latter. I mean, there's part of it. It's like, the president can say things and maybe he has like certain things he wants to do. But if you just look at like the direction of presidents and politicization of society, I like this quote from Michael Malice that like conservatives are progressives driving the speed limit. Conservatives today are like 90s Democrats, liberals. Yeah. So they're not conserving anything. What are they conserving? I don't know. So it goes in one direction. Towards more power for the political nation state. Yeah,
for sure.
And it goes beyond the president. I mean, Trump didn't even know we had soldiers like stationed in like Libya or parts of the Middle East. They do things behind the president's back because if the president knew, he might not approve it. Yeah. Right. So it's like maybe they showed him what happened to JFK. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Or like the CIA in general, like it could be responsible of like presidential assassinations. Like it's this whole unelected like group of people that have immense power too.
Exactly. Yeah. Not to change topics, but like, would you want to talk about jujitsu?
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about jujitsu.
Yeah, I want to ask you because this is a question I have for you. What is it like being a black belt?
I don't think it's been a big change, honestly. Like the biggest change is just like when it first happened. Or I guess there are some changes. Like when it first happened, I was like, I feel the exact same. But like when I'm rolling in the gi and I see it, when I look at that, I'm like, that's fucking sick. But other than that, I feel like it's like, I don't know. You feel almost more comfortable in your level of jujitsu at the lower belts because I feel like there's almost like less pressure on you to perform. Like I feel like I've said this with a buddy that's like purple belt is like the most respected with the least expected belt. So like you're like respected as like, okay, this guy knows jujitsu, he's sick, you can hit some sick moves, you're pretty knowledgeable in a lot of stuff. But if you lose to anyone, like it's no big deal. Like it really doesn't matter at all. Like once you get more like higher and higher, and especially at black belt, I feel like there is, maybe it's more intrinsic, but I think there is like an element of just like it is the reality of like pressure to perform for your belt. So you go to like an open mat or something and you get like this fucking young blue belt who's been training since he's 8 years old. And he's like a fucking phenom now at 17 years old. You cannot let that motherfucker pass your guard at all, And so I think there's like a little bit of pressure to perform. But also too, I just feel like I'm constantly looking for like my next evolution and like to really try to like just learn and become better and better because the black belt doesn't really mean that much. It's like the skill that you have. So I've just been focusing on like developing skill and trying to like be a good example of what a real black belt is.
I like that. I remember when I started jiu-jitsu and like, I was like, oh, like a purple belt, like that would be so sick. And then like the black belt was almost like unfathomable.
Yeah.
Like, but the more I get into jiu-jitsu, I'm like, it's kind of just, it's you that's growing. You know what I mean? But I like that. And I feel like that pressure, I can kind of understand what you're saying. Like, especially for myself as a purple belt, like there's respect, but there's also no expectation that you need to like beat everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of nice. I kind of don't want to let that go.
It is like that good sweet spot. Like we said, like it's the most respected with the least expected.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. I remember the last podcast we did, for myself, we were talking about like doing dishes. And I guess I began to do some more dishes since then. And I've gotten better at it and just kind of appreciative and like understanding like this is life. Like life requires you to do things you don't always want to do.
Sure. Yeah.
And I feel like I've been finding more peace. And we'll come back to jujitsu, but I guess I kind of want to elaborate on that. Like, I don't know, because I was also thinking about this, our last podcast too.
Sure.
You know, at the time I had like dyed hair and painted nails and stuff like that. And reflecting on that time, I think I was just very insecure.
Really?
Yeah. Cause I was like, you know, getting more into music and just everything felt for myself, like it was dependent on the value of my music. It was very external to myself. So I didn't have I feel like so much self-confidence with myself. But now like I've gotten a bit better at music, a bit better at jiu-jitsu and just more, more understanding of my life. And I guess that's given me more security.
Wow. Nice. Not reliant on I got to do this to be respected or do this to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just feel more at peace too. And, yeah.
Nice. Well, that's really good. What do you think the reason has been? What have you changed in your life?
I think
you're obviously well read. You've been doing a lot of reading.
I've been trying to do more. Just kind of understanding that I was very ambitious with, you know, dreams and hopes of what my life would look like, and even with music too. And to compare where I was with my hopes and aspirations, you know, that's the Buddhist quote that desire is the root of all suffering.
Yeah.
And I was attached to that and felt like in the meantime, in the immediate moment, I wasn't happy with myself because I didn't have what I wanted. But now it's oh shit, I don't even think I want those things. Now what I want is to continue being more serious and disciplined with my vocation, my professorship, my reading. So for example, last month I did a 30 songs in 30 days thing.
Wow.
Yeah, not mixed, not finished songs, but trying to put
a song.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be super rough.
That's a lot.
It was a lot. It was 2 to 4 hours a day of music.
Yeah.
And it just taught me a lot. And I have a couple songs now, and I'll shout out that I wanted it to be an album.
Yeah.
And I'm it's kind of still far away. So I'm dropping an EP of two songs that I really love.
Nice.
On February 26th. And
that's cool. Hell yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And now I'm I just honestly a couple days ago, I'm wow, all the discipline I learned from trying to make music, that much music, I can just apply it to what is really my priority, my calling, which is my studies, my professorship. And
nice.
So I want to
well, that's part, maybe a shift in your mindset right there that I feel can take you from a depressive state to being satisfied with what you're doing, is that the love of the work. You know, if you're thinking about this external goal, or you said, you know, comparing yourself to your music where you should be, if your happiness is here, you could eventually even achieve that. And you'll realize that it's just a fucking moment, and it's not anything that to, you know, put all your happiness in. But if you can put love in towards the work, that's what I feel gives you true satisfaction.
Yes, absolutely. I love this quote that you know, if you think you're going to be happy only at the top of the mountain, you know, that is a moment, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
You're not going to be happy on the way up and after that moment. And so it's you got to be happy now.
In the process. Yeah. And I feel it does take some, maybe just learning and growing too, because I feel for me personally, especially when I was just a super young man, right in the beginning of the workforce and stuff, I was thinking it's why can't I just have a deep passion for what I do? And I think it is beautiful when people find those things. But for me personally, I was in my young 20s, I wanted to be able to make some money. And I realized that unless I had a skill that I've been developing for a long time, like jiu-jitsu or something, and, you know, say I started at 10 years old and I can profitably teach at 20, then that would be something to do. But that wasn't the case. I started at 22 years old. Or you have some sort of natural talent, which you know, you're an incredible singer or something like this. And maybe it's not just natural, it's something you work on as well. Unless you can monetize that, what you have to do, and this is just my experience, is get good at something. You know, learn something, get good at it. And I feel I've done that through commercial real estate. And now, while it's not necessarily fun, my day to day, I do have a lot of fun. But I would say a better description is I feel a lot of satisfaction from like the work I do. Like when I've been doing it for over 10 years now, and I'll have a conversation with someone that, maybe I initially met 5 years ago, and now we're doing this fucking huge deal and we're negotiating it back and forth. And like, it's clear to him that I'm a valuable resource for him. And I know I've made that impression upon him. I'm like, this is fucking sick, and like when we're negotiating back and forth. And so, I don't know, this was like a change in my thought, is that like, I remember working at the beginning and I was like just getting so upset, and I'm like, why can't I just do something where I wake up and have fun every day? But I realized that like so much of life is just like work, like there's like a Marcus Aurelius like quote where it's like, the birds and bees don't get pissed that they have to fucking get up and go to work. All parts of life get up and go to work, and why do you think you're any different? And so yeah, I don't know. I just like, I feel I've realized that being productive, trying to better myself. And that's another thing that's interesting too. I feel like my sales job I don't know about any sales job, but like what I do for sure, self-improvement is almost like directly tied to like my ability to make money. And so like, it's been this constant self-improvement process where I have to become a better communicator. I have to become a better thinker. I have to be like learned in the market. And it has like a ripple effect throughout my whole life. It's one of the reasons I actually wanted to start a podcast in the first place, is just to constantly practice communication. And I felt like going on like a tangent now, but like communication is what separates the human race from all other animals. Our ability to like think and bounce thoughts off each other, which is like Terrence McKenna says, is like essentially telepathy. Because your internal dictionary matches my internal dictionary, I can make a bunch of mouth noises, and all of a sudden my thoughts are transferred through the air and put into your head. And we have this ability to telepathically communicate. It's just the carrier wave is these mouth noises. And so, yeah, I've been going on like kind of a tangent now, but just like, yeah, I've felt like just putting myself into work and like bettering myself. And maybe I'm not necessarily having fun in all the things that I do, but I feel like a immense satisfaction to be able to do like some of the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me personally, I've been like actually picking up the Bible and reading that.
Really nice.
Yeah. And Saint Benedict had this quote that like it was Latin. It was like ora et labora, which means work and pray. And I just like, that's kind of resonating with me right now. And like also with music and creativity, God is considered the creative energy. And I feel like a lot of our culture or art or creativity that like doesn't have God in it is kind of why it's like not super impressive. You think about the great cathedrals, they're like creatively impressive.
Yeah, they're incredible works of art.
Yeah, dedications to God and God in society and life. And I think in a way that's also given me like peace and contentment that like, okay, this is my life. Like I can work hard at these things that I really like.
Yeah.
And that's great. Like it doesn't need to be these ambitious goals of like DJing, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, that has helped me be more content. And I guess for jiu-jitsu, like, I don't know if your goal as well when you started was to get a black belt, but it can be frustrating if like, and now I'm thinking like, shit, like, is that the right goal to have to get a black belt? And obviously, no, from what I hear from like jiu-jitsu black belts and stuff, it's like, don't make that the goal. Like, just try to be better. Yeah. Don't worry about the belt and stuff. And I'm kind of slowly beginning to understand that and stuff.
It's kind of like what we talked about of like having the exterior goal versus like loving the process. Like, I think with jiu-jitsu, it's clear to me too, for sure, that like the belt, I actually never had necessarily the goal of the belt. I just like loved training. And so it was just easy for me to just show up every day and like fucking get after it. And then like the belts come as they come.
Yeah. I started, before I even started, I was like, I want to get a black belt.
Yeah.
Playing at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But it's kept me going. But now I'm like, shit, am I going to stop? Like, I don't know. But I don't know. Yeah. Jiu-jitsu is beautiful. Let me ask you too about competitions, because people have an expectation when they compete. Why do you think jiu-jitsu competitions are so important for some people?
It's a good question. I think competition is really important because a number of different reasons, but like as an adult, that's like out of high school, you're not doing any like competitive sports or something, to get the feel of like, fuck, I'm putting it on the line. There's going to be people are watching. It's win or lose. It's very binary. You know, it's like I can either have this amazing time winning or like the fucking suck of losing. And to be able to put that on the line and do that as an adult, what other place can you even like feel that sort of like energy? It's so nerve-wracking going into competition, like not knowing what's going to happen, spending all this time, you know, your family's going to show up or what have you. And to be able to have that sort of like feeling put in you, like there's almost, I don't think anything else as available as an adult to like feel that feeling. So I think, and it's sort of just like facing your fears, you know, like it's super nerve wracking. Probably one of the main reasons people don't compete in the first place. It's like, I don't want to lose in front of my friends, you know, and being able to face your fears and go out there and then fucking win or lose, just like deal with it, you know, because like, I just competed at a tournament like a week ago, and like going into it, I honestly thought like I had like a very good chance of winning. I thought that like I had an advantage in a number of different ways, and I thought I was going to win the match for sure. But then it ended up where I fucking lost to a toe hold and I like hurt my foot. And so it's like, I don't know, like I feel like these are basically like lessons for life to like, okay, how are you going to handle this? How are you going to react to it? It's easy to like take a loss and be like, well, fuck that. I'm getting drunk tonight. I'm like, you know, like I'm pissed off. I'm not going to like, you know, recollect on it at all. I'm just going to like avoid those thoughts. But there's the opposite of that, where it's like, I'm going to fucking get better. Like I've like dedicated my life to like healing at first, and like, not dedicated my life, but I've been like extremely disciplined since then, where my diet is dialed. I'm like hitting the weights every single day. I'm training jujitsu as much as I physically can. I'm going to get so fucking dialed for this next competition that like, I'm going to go in a better me, you know? And so I feel like wins almost teach you nothing. It's super fun and it's great to post a highlight reel, but like you really don't learn anything from it. A loss, like it forces you to self-reflect a bit. And so I think like that as like an adult, like where else can you experience these type of things? So like for that, like I think competition is super important. And number two is just to like test yourself, you know, like try to push your limits. If you're never pushing your limits, for one, you never find them. And for two, you don't like grow the way you do when you push your limits. Like you'll like I lost to a toe hold on this one. I'm like, now in training, I realize I'll let people grab my foot because I'm like, I could kind of spin out or I'll keep attacking mine. But in this case, like if you let someone fucking rip it until they like are going to break it, it's going to almost break eventually. So I'm like super more cognizant of people like grabbing my foot at all. And now I've realized that like if I get into certain positions, I'm going to like, you know, this specifically, like I got to a leg lock position and I felt like a pop. And typically it's over there. You know, but like in this case, we continued on, nothing happened. He didn't tap. And so like my like takeaway from it is like I need to, for one, not emphasize leg locks. I feel like I'm most confident in my leg locks, and try to like go for like strangles in competition more. And two, like realize that like if something is lost, abandon it and like move forward. So like I wasn't getting the break with the leg. I need to like abandon it, wrestle up.
Mm-hmm. I love what you said, like too, where else can you find something like a jiu-jitsu competition?
Yeah.
And I think what's resonating with me is like, it's like a performance.
Yeah.
You're performing your art and your craft at like the highest energy level you can.
Yeah.
For other people.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
It's high stakes. Like it's like I have like sick highlight videos in my gym, you know, like, and it's or like at a gym at an open mat, but the pressure is so low. So it's not easy to like do your best jujitsu. When the pressure is the highest, like, can you do your best jujitsu?
Yeah. And also like the philosophy of jiu-jitsu, like you were saying, like be able to try something, maybe it doesn't work out and just move on.
Yeah.
And like the faster you can do that, like you don't get discouraged. My first jiu-jitsu competition, I won my one match and then lost a match. And I realized like, dude, if you can never get discouraged and you have insightful persistence,
yeah,
you have time, like you will achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
But discouragement stops. So you know what I mean? I've been there too. fuck that. I'm going to go have a drink. Like,
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's how it feels. Like it's what you want to do. Partly, I've committed to staying sober for as long as I see reasonable, which is going to be at least it's about a month right now, or maybe a little bit more. I'd like just under a month right now. I'm gonna go like probably minimum to like around my birthday or something. But I'm like feeling really good right now. So like after that, I really was like, fuck, let's just go get some drinks. Let's eat like fucking shitty food. But like I decided to stay consistent. And it was really only that night that was like even the urge to like go out and drink. Like the next day, I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't. It feels better now. And I just like got back into the recovery routine and like hitting the gym and doing all this. And like it feels fantastic.
yeah. I think competitions, at least for me too, have been like good because they keep me healthy and like focusing on training.
Yeah.
You know, and instead of just like doing fuck all and like drinking too much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. But sorry, we were talking about competition.
Yeah.
You said like you felt something about competition as well.
Yeah. I think it keeps me healthy. But let me ask you this too. Jiu-jitsu and the concept jiu-jitsu as an escape. And this is, I guess, something that kind of goes with my area of research and interest, that like life can be a tragedy, it can be mundane. Life is kind of what you make it. Life is a beautiful thing. But if life for some people is mundane, do they go to jiu-jitsu as an escape from the mundane? And yeah, I guess I just want to see what you think about this idea.
It could be. Some people do for sure. I'm sure. Like I've got a friend that basically had like personal life issues that he should have addressed, and he had an opportunity to quit jiu-jitsu and take this job that would have very much helped with all of his personal life issues. It would have given him the power to move out of the situation he was in, to, start improving on all these things. And he decided against that to continue to do jiu-jitsu. So because it would have basically been like the hours would have been long enough and such that he wouldn't have been able to train. And so instead of doing this, he decided that he's like, I'm going to continue to train. I'm not going to give up jiu-jitsu. So I think for some people like this person, for sure, he was using, because jiu-jitsu is so fun. You could go and it's just a blast.
Yeah.
But like, if you're doing it at the expense of maybe if like life is beautiful, if life is mundane to you, you should be like doing something to fucking change that shit. And like, that's kind of like the point I was going into earlier too, with like dedicating my life to work and like just understanding that I like that working more is going to be good for me, is that like sometimes you go through periods of like shit to like get to a position where you're doing better.
Yeah. I think you're right. Like maybe that's why a lot of people do get into jiu-jitsu, is because like they feel like life is mundane and they want, something more and exciting. But also it can be super addictive in that sense.
Yeah.
And even like, some of the people I've met, and obviously through history, like rock stars, they go to music because it's amazing, it's exciting, the lifestyle, the culture, and it can be addicting. And like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't want to say there's a wrong or right thing to do. But I think it's interesting, like to be aware of like that.
Yeah. I'd say like no matter what, even if like your life is like being a rock star, there's got to be points of it that like aren't fun. Say like take MMA for example, like that's sometimes some people's dream is just to become like an MMA fighter, to become incredible. There's going to be points where you don't want to train. There's going to be points where you're injured and have to do stuff anyways. There's going to be like points where maybe like even like through media or something, like you got to do things you don't want to do. I think there is no life with that, like every moment is just ecstatic joy. I think like if that's what you're looking for, like it's sort of the wrong thing to look for. If you're thinking that I'm just going to be happy constantly, it's like it's the wrong emotion to emphasize. You should like try to emphasize competence and like ability and all these things and try to become a better person. And like along the way, there'll be points of like a massive, elation, or you'll be really happy throughout it. So
yeah. I think that's why a lot of people probably go into the competitive circuit and lifestyle, is because like of that dream, and then along the way it's like facing like, is this worth it? You know? And
yeah, like jujitsu is an excellent example. Like people like, you know, are going to dedicate their life to jujitsu because it's so fun. And then they open up a business or a school and realize there's a lot of non-jujitsu activities that I have to do to make this thing work, you know? So,
yeah. I think also too with that kind of idea and like the competition itself, maybe that's why people put a lot of pressure on the competition, because they want it to be like, you know, this has to work out for my goal.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the right way to do that is. I'd say I'm far from like mentally, you know, perfecting my competition self, because I think it's like a constant challenge. But like, yeah, I think the mental aspect of competition is massive too. I think it's probably maybe more than your physical ability is like your mental state going into it.
Yeah. And also with like what jujitsu can teach as a philosophy for life is that like we're fragile. We can break.
Yeah.
You know, we're not like superhuman by any means.
That's true. Yeah.
We're actually showing how to break people.
Yeah.
You know? And that breaking of like, it's more of an understanding. Actually, I think it's like, it teaches you, it enlightens you that you aren't indestructible and you can break and can be stopped. And like that does something to your ego, which if you never tried jujitsu,
exactly,
kind of don't know.
Oh, totally. That's like that's a huge. Honestly, that's like a massive. Here's the kitty cat again. That's like a massive teacher to like. I think why most young males should get into it, or males in general for sure, because as you like as a guy, you almost like naturally have this unearned sense of bravado that like if things were to go down, I could fucking handle myself. Yeah. And like jujitsu will teach you like very quickly that that's not the fucking case. I remember when I was like a white belt, I started at like seriously at like 22, and I remember like rolling with this guy that was like, not to like judge a book by its cover, but I was judging this fucking book by its cover. He was like 5'3", ginger, balding, middle-aged purple belt that was overweight. Like literally like a short, small guy that was bald and fat, and he was a purple belt. I was like, dude, this guy's got no chance on me. Like I'm gonna fuck this guy up. And he probably tapped me out like 5 times in the one roll. And I'm like, fuck, what the hell? It made me realize, I'm like, dude, he just has way more mat time than me. That's like the only real difference. Yeah. But like that was like a massive like learning moment for me, where I'm like, holy shit, like there's like if shit were to go down, like I can't defend myself.
Yeah. Even like you have like moms of like in their 40s who train jujitsu, and when you just start, like they will mess you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And even like young girls who are like much smaller than you, but they know the technique. And that's the beauty of jujitsu is it's technique. It's really a language. It's a knowledge-based martial art, and it makes you more peaceful because you go out in the world and you're like, I don't know who knows what. Yeah. Anyone might fuck me up.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Which I think is definitely like, I feel like it might be underrated or understated, underappreciated, but I feel like that is like ultimately like the most beautiful philosophical thing of jiu-jitsu is it makes people more peaceful. You learn how to be more violent. Yeah. But the effect is that it makes you more peaceful.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think like not knowing how to defend yourself is how fights happen a lot of the times in the first place. People will say something that offends you, and then like you're like in this heightened sense of like, I could get attacked right now, and you're like, you know, really scared, and then that person also is like in that same sense, and like it's this sort of like back and forth that like hypes each other up into a sense where all of a sudden you're fucking fighting. When if I attack people 6 times a week, right? And have people attack me 6 times a week. If someone were to mouth off to me, like I'm not gonna say anything because it's like, all right, you want to go? I'll fucking double leg you right now, like. And I think just like a small show of confidence, like true, real confidence, de-escalates most anything because it can either. Like it's extremely rare someone that like if say like I was about to like start talking shit to someone and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, you want to go? I'm like, oh, well, maybe not,
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially for like young males who do talk a lot, like it is trying to assert your dominance and prove something.
Yeah.
But like you said, like if you're truly confident and competent in your ability to like fight, then you don't really need to talk. And
you don't need to have anything to prove.
no, and it reminds me of like this idea of like, I think everything's projection. So especially with like insults, when someone says, you know, you're this, you're that, it's just projection of how they feel about themselves.
Totally.
And so when someone's like you're a bitch, I'll fight you. It's like, that's kind of how you think about yourself.
Yeah, they feel like a bitch.
Yeah, you don't know me. Like, you don't know what I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like, it's just seeing it like that and not taking things personally.
You know, that I think that's so true. I think that like when you get really mad at someone, you should like someone that maybe like at the workplace, say, like you should take a really honest self-account of like why I'm mad at that person. Because I felt like in my experience, the times where I get the most pissed off at people, it's because I see something in them that I hate in myself. You know, like for example, there was this one kid that was like working as a researcher at my office for like 6 months or something, and he was just the laziest fucking piece of shit that I've ever met in my life. Like he'd do the absolute bare minimum, and like he'd be like constantly on his phone, like never working at all. And I just found myself getting so mad at this kid. And like even though I like my work is such that like him being lazy doesn't necessarily directly affect me, as long as he's doing, if he could do the work that's for me, like it doesn't really if I haven't asked him to do anything, he could be as lazy as he wants, and it doesn't really affect me at all. So I'm getting mad at him for really nothing that affects me. And I'm like, and I thought about it more. I'm like, because I hate, I really didn't like the idea of myself being lazy. I want to be a hard worker. This is something I value a lot. And like, I realized like, I'm just seeing like a great example of laziness in him. And I'm getting pissed off that because I hate that in myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to tell you a story because like this is something I was talking to like one of my best friends about a few days ago.
Hit me.
In 2023, when I was at the Austrian Economic Research Conference at the Mises Institute, I presented on my master's thesis, which was the economics of suicide, and that actually was my paper I got published as my first book.
Sick.
Yeah, this might have been before we did the podcast.
So you already did it?
Yeah, so that was my master's thesis. That was a 50-page paper. The PhD dissertation I'm working on is the 300-page version.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That will be like the full version. So yeah, maybe this was. So I got it published as a book, and that was my first book. I'm really proud of it. But
I think it might have been soon after, actually, because I remember you posting stuff about it.
Yeah. And anyways, I went to so this was 2023 in the fall or summer, and I presented on this at the Institute, and someone afterwards came up to me and was just like, wanted to kind of talk. Like he was like, yeah, my uncle just committed suicide, and I didn't know what to say at all, but he just like needed to get it off his chest and stuff.
Yeah.
And then this other guy came up and like slapped him on the back and was like, just completely interrupts us and is like, why are you talking to the suicide guy? And that like hit me like a dagger. And I was like, oh. I got so pissed. I left. I like was walking around like the campus at Auburn University, just like uncontrollably pissed. Cause I think it just hit a nerve with me.
Yeah.
Cause like, first of all, like, you interrupted this guy who was like in a deep moment. He immediately reacted like, oh, I don't know. And just shut up and like walked away too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're like, fuck both you guys.
No. The other, because he was like opening with me, but that guy came up and then like shut him up. Shut him down. Yeah. Like, why are you talking to this?
Yeah.
So that guy was like immediately like went like curled up, you know, and just like he left. And we're still like, you know, friends or acquaintances. But anyways, I was pissed that guy said that. And I'm like, I think just a few days ago, I was talking to my friend about this, and he's like, dude, fuck that guy, obviously. But I think I just need to like accept these things with myself. Like,
well, if you are writing a whole book about suicide, you
people
might be
ask.
called the suicide guy.
Yeah, people ask. And I think I got to just kind of like be okay with that. Like part of me was like, I don't know how to kind of conceptualize or hold that in my mind.
Yeah. It's tough to not get emotional in the moment when like things are like personal attacks. But like they say like if you allow someone to influence your physical state, like you're a slave to them in that moment. You know, like you're allowing external to guide my internal. You know, like in reality, anyone should be able to say anything, and I'm confident that I am what I am. Like you can say any combination of words you want, and it's not going to piss me off.
Yeah.
But like, it is tough to actually implement that in the moment.
It was, and I think subconsciously that led me to like be resistant or hesitant towards embracing like my research, my writing, what I'm doing. And I've met people like down in Scottsdale. I met like Robert Kiyosaki, like the author of Rich Dad Poor
Really?
Dad.
Yeah, he lives down in like Biltmore area.
Yeah, and he was with like some people, and we started talking about like the institute and my research and stuff. And like one of the ladies who was there was like what you're doing is awesome. Keep doing it. You'll help more people than you know. And I was like, that's an amazing compliment. Thank you. And things like that have really like just helped me embrace it. And then also like going back to the Bible, I was reading the book of Matthew, my namesake. And like, there's a part where Jesus is talking to Matthew and the disciples, and he's like, listen, like talk to the people who will open the door for you. They're worthy. And the people who will slight you, like they're like dust at your feet. Don't mind it too much. It's something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
That's kind of sick.
That's kind of sick. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of people with bad opinions out there that you can like let that infiltrate your thoughts and your peace.
Yes.
Yeah, you shouldn't even give it any weight.
No, yeah. And so whatever that guy said, whatever people say, like, it's okay. It's kind of like, it's probably projection. I don't need to take it personally. He doesn't know me.
Yeah.
And even if he's right, you know, it's my responsibility to react. You know, it's my choice of how to react. And I chose to be angry at that moment because I didn't understand.
The best thing is like to be able to like come up with something quick and witty and get him back.
Of course.
Right away. Of course. That should be the
one.
takeaway, you know, like just try to be like less emotional, quicker on the feet.
Yeah. Yeah, not taking it personally, just being like.
Have you ever read The 4 Agreements? That's a great book.
Yes.
Like one of the agreements is don't take anything personally.
I think that's probably what inspired this idea of understanding that like probably every insult people say is projection.
Yeah.
I think it's so true.
Yeah. Otherwise, like I don't go insulting anyone. Like what's the reason to insult someone?
Yeah, no, it's like to hurt because like you feel bad and you feel like the way you'll feel better is if other people are hurt too.
Yeah.
But the honest truth is like, you gotta understand like everyone's going through something you don't know about. Everyone's kind of hurt in their own way.
Yeah.
So it's like no one's not feeling things.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just you think like you're the only one feeling things and
it's not the right way to do it.
No. Yeah. There's a good professor. I came across his books. His name's William Lyon Phelps, and he was an early 20s.
It's like a descendant, an ancestor of Michael Phelps.
Maybe. He was teaching literature at Yale and Harvard in the early 20th century. So he's deceased. He was from like the, late 19th, early 20th century. But he taught literature. He was also a preacher, and he wrote books on like short books on like marriage and happiness and human nature. And yeah, I don't know. I've been reading some of his books, and it's very, very interesting stuff. And he talks about that too, as far as like yeah, people, everyone's going through something. Like, don't hurt. Obviously, don't insult them. Like, try to help. Try to, that's the idea. Is like, be someone who can really be like good for your society and and a good part of your community.
Positive light versus like someone that's fucking, just an energy vampire.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think about those things more. Yeah. And I think jiu-jitsu helps a lot with that. Like, cause especially as an upper belt, you have the opportunity to like be an example for younger people and anyone, not even younger people, but like anyone who comes through the doors. Like that's influenced me a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing that I feel like more responsibility towards too, since getting my black belt. Like, I feel like I need to be an example for younger people too, or like for people who are just starting as well. These fucking little cats. She's like,
I don't have a cat, but I like cats. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, cats are awesome.
She's okay. She's actually way better now. Like she used to be not fixed, and she would go through heat like once a month. Whoa. And like she would meow her fucking head off at night. I think that's why they call it cat calling, because she's like trying to get laid. She's like, meow,
interesting.
Meow. It was like the fucking death scream every single night for hours. So, but then she got fixed and then she's fine.
Isn't that though what like guys do? Isn't that what it's called? Catcalling?
It is called, yeah, but like, yeah, it's what guys do. Like if you're like, hey baby, how you doing?
Yeah,
whoa,
yeah.
Whoa, whoa. You know, like you're trying to get laid. I think that's like what cats do when they're in heat. They just like meow like crazy. So if you're a male cat, you're like, oh, dude, she wants to fuck.
Yeah.
And just go find her.
Whoa.
But yeah, but no, she's a good little cat. Cats are pretty sick.
Yeah.
They're very like, they're so different than dogs. It's funny. Like they're very like just so fine with themselves. Like they don't need your approval. They don't like, you know, you could get home and they just won't even come see you. Like dogs are the opposite.
Yeah. My professor had a good joke. He's like, cats are like, they're like Republicans. They're independent, self-reliant. Dogs are like liberals. Like they're super reliant on you. Like
reliant on the system. That's funny.
funny.
That's funny. Cats are too, though. She needs the food. She'll start becoming your best friend around feeding time. She'll be like, start rubbing you, like meowing, asking for stuff.
Yeah. I guess maybe some of the last things I would like to talk about is like music too. Like music has, I don't know, like the more I've gotten better and improved and like working on music and stuff, like it's given me like that self-confidence too. But now I can also detach like my self-worth and value from what I've created. And like, I think that's been just really cool too. Like a form of meditation almost and stuff.
You know, it's like a self-improvement process as well. Just like jujitsu or something else. Like you're getting better as you do it.
Definitely.
And so what kind of music do you make? Like, do you play an instrument or it's like through like the computer?
I'm learning, you know, guitar and keyboard and piano, but it's like the laptop. And I think a way I heard it put, I really like is like the laptop's not your instrument. Your mind is your instrument. And you're trying to like work in like the DAW, the digital audio workshop, and like using virtual electronic synthesizers and stuff like that, and like drums and like sample based music and stuff like that, and manipulating it.
That's
and
cool.
Stuff. Super cool.
It is interesting when you see like some of the most famous like songs and like what the original sample was from. Sometimes it's like this like 1960s song that's like put into like 0.1 speed or something, and all of a sudden it sounds like so fucking cool. Yeah. Or 4 times the speed, or you know, whatever it is.
Totally. I mean, I can even show you like the 2 songs that I have on this EP coming out.
Oh yeah.
I'll explain. Like the first one was like a sample that was basically I use like a nature atmosphere of like birds and like it's like a forest, so it sets a mood. And then it was like a beautiful pad in the background. And then I found this vocal sample, which was like this like girl singing like "Bring Me Back to Life." And I'm like, okay, this is cool. So then I like extend the audio and put like reverb and delay, so it's like very kind of like ethereal, and it sounds like a ghost. And then I use that same sample to like make it more like immediate and louder, and it's like now she's like singing, and then there's like the synths come in, and then it's like a build up, and then on the drop it's like future bass, not really melodic dubstep, but that's what I really like, kind of stuff. And it's like hard with the super saws and the white noise, and it's just like a wall of sound, and then like the bass comes in too, so you like just feel it, and like on like big speakers it would be super sick.
Nice.
And then the other song is like a beat I made, and then I sing on it. But what I did was I pitched up my vocals using like a plugin called Manipulator. So I increased the pitch 12 semitones, so it's higher. And then I like I increased the formant a little bit too. So it sounds more natural, but it sounds like a girl. And then I mixed the wet and dry of like how much, like, so 100% wet is like full vocal pitched up effects. Dry is like 100% dry or 0% wet is like just your natural voice, none of that effect. So you find a sweet spot, like 40, 50%. Anyways. And I was like realizing like, wow, like hearing myself kind of sound like a chick, but like angelic in this sense. It sounds beautiful. And so it gave me more confidence to like sing more passionately, if you will.
Sure.
And so then like you can use that just to record and then take that off if you want to have your natural singing voice.
Yeah.
But I kept it in because I like it, and like it sounds cool, and like, I can do what I want with music. So that's just like a song I was singing, and it was like, and I was thinking about too our last podcast, like with what we were talking about with music, where you're like, because I was making some like dark emo music, and like I'll be real, like that was a moment. But just being able to like kind of process the emotions in that way has been really cool. And yeah, now I just want to make more like beautiful music. I want to make more like melodic dubstep because that's like very technically intricate. And I love that intricacy. It's like jujitsu, like when you get super technical and you're learning that stuff, like it can be really cool. It's the tism. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's been really cool.
Well, that's cool. I'm excited to hear the songs.
Okay, awesome. I'll show you.
You said they released on the 17th?
The 26th.
Oh,
so
the 26th?
the EP, it's called Memento Vivere, which means remember to live.
Okay.
And yeah, it's just 2 tracks.
26th, so like middle of next week? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we could like have this released like maybe right before or something. Or
Okay,
like,
that'd be cool.
Yeah. Usually it takes like about a week or so from the thing, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah. So yeah, I think, it's not like perfect music. It's not mixed, they're not even like, well, I'll just say it's cool to see like my process with the music. And like, I just can see like, kind of like if you took DMT, I never took DMT, but it's like, you realize like you can do anything in life. And then you have to decide, what are you going to do with life? And like, and yeah, I was like, I wanted the music, but now it's like, it's a hobby. I need my priorities to be my professorship, my reading, my writing, like building this institute, the Menger Institute. That's what matters to me most. Because these mushes are fucking up the economy, man. Like, I'd rather just be a DJ, but we got to fix the economy first.
Nice. Well, that's good. Maybe like a job with more utility overall.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, music's beautiful.
Music is beautiful.
It's
hard
energy.
to say because like obviously like people have incredible like experience from music as well. Like they have like they experience it just through, I guess, just their day to day. Maybe like some sort of like love or connection to the music, but also too like economics is what shapes the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wish I could just focus on music, but economics is like the foundation for civilization.
Seems like you have a lot of passion towards it. I really enjoyed this conversation about it.
Yeah.
If you had to recommend one book for someone that's like doesn't know anything about economics or like one like really good economic book, what would you say?
Human Action by Ludwig von Mises.
Human Action?
It's a treatise on economics, but like if you read that, like you'll have a PhD in economics.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's a bit longer, but I couldn't recommend a book higher than that. But
Wow.
for more like introduction, people usually say Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. I would plug my book, An Economic Analysis of Suicide. You can find it on Amazon because I really try to work it from the foundations. And I would say I really like Anatomy of the State by Murray Rothbard. Murray Rothbard is a student of Ludwig von Mises, and that book is more just understanding the nature of the state. What has government done with our money? Also by Rothbard, he walks you through like, yeah, this is kind of what's going on with the monetary system, how it's politicized, how they're creating inflation, and like what effects that has. Man, there's so many books.
Those are good. I'm gonna have to read maybe.
One more I'll plug is Professor Guido Holzmann. He teaches in Angers, France. And he wrote a book called The Ethics of Money Production. And chapter 13 is like the social consequences of inflation. And that's been a big, influential work on my own research.
Yeah.
And like there's a beautiful quote in it that's like, inflation is the juggernaut which has destroyed society and changes society. Something like that. I can't quote off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But those are really good books. Just check out anything by Mises, really. Check out Mises Institute. Check out our institute, Menger Institute. We need money. We are teaching students. Education is the most important thing, more than guns. It begins the real revolutions with education.
Sure.
So if you want to support us, even $1, $5 would be beautiful. So check it out. And Joey, thank you.
Awesome.
for having
Dude,
me on.
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Awesome.